The global limited edition motorcycle I bought for $350,000 was sold to a scrap collector by my neighbor for $3,000. He even had the nerve to look smug, saying he did me a favor by clearing out my trash and demanded a $1,500 finder's fee. I didn't yell, I didn't throw a fit. I just grabbed the purchase invoice and the list of my modifications and went straight to the police station. I really want to see if that smuggle face can still smile when the cops tell him he's looking at a minimum of 10 years in prison. My name is Jiang Yi. I'm just an ordinary working guy, $300, but I used 2 whole years of my income to buy a limited edition Kawasaki H2. Every single part of it is incredibly precious to me. The roar of the engine is the most beautiful melody in the world. Every curve of its body screams power. And the mods? Man, the mods were a bottomless money pit. Italian imported Brembo brake calipers. Promotional price, $25 for self-installation, 12,800 yuan. Italian imported Brembo brake calipers. Miscellaneous items, $25 for self-installation. A single set costs over 10,000, 2,800, and the top-tier Swedish Öhlins suspension cost me 20,000. The full titanium Akrapovic exhaust was another 20 grand, totaling 2,300, adding everything up. D0721. The total cost of the mods easily topped 120,000. This bike is the ultimate symbol of my youth. It's my only weapon against a totally ordinary life. I parked the bike downstairs, specifically picking a corner where it wouldn't be in anyone's way. Every day after work, I would carefully wipe it down before heading upstairs. On the 3rd day, it was parked down there. I got a phone call. It was from my neighbor, Liu Deshun. He lives right across from me. A retired factory worker in his 50s who absolutely loves poking his nose into everyone's business in the building. Whether it's someone forgetting to take out the trash or someone parking a little out of line, he just has to step in and play the boss. Everyone sees that he's an old man, so we usually just let it slide. Hello, is this little Jiang? On the other end of the line, Liu Deshun's voice sounded incredibly smug. Uncle Liu. Yeah, it's me. What's up? That motorcycle downstairs is yours, isn't it? My heart suddenly dropped. Yeah, it's mine. Why? It's completely in the way. I frowned. I parked in the empty space next to the bushes. It's literally not bothering anyone, Uncle Liu. That spot isn't in the way at all. What do you mean it's not in the way? If I say it's in the way, it's in the way. But don't you worry. I've already taken care of it for you. Taken care of it? My chest tightened in an instant. What do you mean you took care of it? I sold it. I called up a buddy of mine who collects scrap, and I already sold it off for you. My ears started ringing. My mind just went completely blank. Who the hell gave him the right to sell my bike? I took a deep breath, forcing my voice to stay as steady as possible. Uncle Liu, how much did you sell it for? $3,000. Not too shabby, right? I mean, look at that busted old motorcycle. Just 2 wheels and a pile of scrap metal. The fact I got $3,000 for it, you really ought to be thanking me. The bike I paid $350,000 for. To him, it was just $3,000 worth of scrap metal, and I was supposed to thank him? I gripped my phone, my knuckles turning white from squeezing it so hard. But I didn't blow up. My anger instantly spiked to the absolute limit, but then it completely froze over, turning into pure, cold logic. When dealing with scum like this, arguing is completely pointless. He has no clue what limited edition even means. He doesn't know what Brembo brakes are, let alone what Öhlins are. In his mind, he did me a massive favor by clearing out my junk and getting a good price for it? That just makes him my savior. Jiang, why are you so quiet? Too thrilled to speak? You gotta split that $3,000 with me. If it weren't for my connections, that piece of junk wouldn't have even sold for $1,000. I stopped listening. Got it, Uncle Liu. I said those words with absolute zero emotion. Then, I just hung up. The room instantly fell dead silent. The sunlight glaring through the window kind of burned my eyes. I walked into my study and opened the drawer. Inside was a neatly stacked pile of documents. The 230,000 yuan purchase invoice, and the 120,000 yuan modification list. 12,800 yuan, brand, model, price, and purchase date. I stacked all the paperwork perfectly together. 37 pages in total. I stared at the stack, my eyes as calm as deep water. Liu Deshun, you chose this path yourself. Since you think it's only worth 3,000, I'll let the law show you exactly how much it costs. The next day, I took a day off from work. Carrying that thick stack of files, I walked into the nearest police station. A young officer took my case. His last name was Lin. What can I do for you, sir? Officer Lin poured me a glass of water. I need to report a crime, officer. My motorcycle was stolen. Officer Lin nodded and pulled out his notepad. Name and ID number, please. I gave him my details one by one. Tell me exactly what happened. When and where was the bike stolen? Yesterday afternoon, right downstairs from my apartment. What brand is it? And how long have you had it? Do you have the receipt? Officer Lin asked while jotting it down. This was clearly just standard procedure. For a local police station, stolen e-bikes and motorcycles are the most common reports. It's a Kawasaki Ninja H2, limited edition. Oh, a Kawasaki. Officer Lin nodded. He clearly didn't know much about the brand. I brought the invoice and all the paperwork, I said, placing the files right in front of him. It was a massive stack. Officer Lin was visibly caught off guard. He picked up the top invoice. When he saw the 230,000 yuan figure, his hand completely froze, checking the date October 2023. He slowly looked up at me, his eyes filled with absolute shock at the technical specs. Are you sure? This is real. Absolutely, check the brand. I slid my ID and the purchase contract across the desk. The owner's info is online, you can verify it. Officer Lin's expression instantly turned serious. He started flipping through the pages, one by one. Brembo brake calipers, 10,000 yuan. Olin's rear shocks, 21,000 yuan. A Krapovich full exhaust system, 23,000 yuan. His page turning got slower and slower. His face grew heavier by the second. When he finally reached the last page and saw the grand total of 354,000 yuan, he actually gasped out loud. An older officer named Joe, who was sitting right next to him, glanced over at the grand total of 354,000 yuan. He also leaned in to take a look. Total, 354,050 yuan. He looked just as shocked. Total, 354,050 yuan. This isn't just a regular stolen vehicle case. This is a major grand theft. The massive value of the case completely changed the nature of the incident. Officer Lin stood up immediately. Sir, please wait here a moment. I need to report this to the station chief. He grabbed the documents and hurried toward the chief's office. I knew it. Things were going exactly as I had planned. A stolen vehicle worth a few thousand yuan versus a stolen vehicle worth 350,000 yuan. In the eyes of the police, the priority levels are completely different. For the first one, they might just take your statement and tell you to go home and wait. But the latter means a strict deadline to crack the case. A few minutes later, a middle-aged man with 2 bars and 1 star on his shoulders followed Officer Lin out. Mr. Jiang, right? I'm the chief of the Qingxi police station. My last name is Ji-Yu. Hello, Chief Ji-Yu. Officer Lin has already briefed me on the situation. We'll make copies of these and put them on file. As evidence. Your case involves a massive sum of money, and the nature of the crime is severe. We are taking this very seriously. We'll set up a special task force immediately to help you recover your vehicle as quickly as possible. I nodded. Thank you, Chief Ji-Yu. But as for the person who stole it, I actually have a good idea of who it is. Chief Guo's eyes lit up. Who is it? My neighbor, Liu Dishun. Then, I repeated the contents of our phone call from yesterday, word for word. After I finished, the office fell dead silent. Chief Ji-Yu furrowed his brows. Are you saying he took your 350,000 yuan vehicle and sold it for scrap for 3,000 yuan? Yes. That's exactly what he told me on the phone. And he wanted you to split the money and give him 1,500? Yes. Chief Ji-Yu fell silent. He had been a cop for a lot of years, but he had probably never seen anything like this. This wasn't just theft anymore. This was pure, staggering ignorance and greed. Is this considered theft? Or is it misappropriation? Or maybe the illegal disposal of someone else's property? Officer Lin asked in a low voice. Officer Zhou shook his head. No matter what the charge is. With an amount of over 300,000 yuan, the sentence starts at a minimum of 10 years. 10 years? The phrase sounds so simple, but to me it was the heavy weight of justice. Chief Ji-Yu picked up the phone and dialed a number. Attention all units. Assemble downstairs in 3 minutes. Prepare to dispatch. He put down the phone and looked at me, his eyes holding a mix of sympathy and respect. Mr. Jiang, you are incredibly calm. Your way of handling this was absolutely correct. You didn't start a private conflict, but instead chose to trust the law. That was the best possible approach. Leave the rest to us. I nodded. I knew the real show was just getting started. Walking out of the office, several officers were already geared up and ready to go. Officer Lin gave me a nod. Let's go meet this Liu Dishun together. The police car didn't use its sirens. A black Santana pulled up silently, right outside our apartment building. I got out of the car with Chief Ji-Yu and Officer Lin. It was late afternoon, and the neighborhood was buzzing with kids and older folks hanging out. Seeing a few officers in full uniform marching straight toward our building, everyone stopped and stared. We headed upstairs and stopped right at Liu Dishun's door. Officer Lin stepped up and knocked. Who is it? Police, open up. The grumbling inside stopped dead. After about 10 seconds, the door cracked open and Liu Dishun poked half his head out, seeing the cops at his doorstep and me standing right behind them. He froze for a second. Officers. Dut. Who are you looking for? We're looking for you. Liu Dishun. Chief Ji-Yu took a step forward and flashed his badge. There's a theft case, and we need you to cooperate with our investigation. A theft case? He threw the door wide open, pointed right at me and yelled at the cops, "Oh, it's about that piece of junk motorcycle." Officers, you be the judge here. I did him a favor by clearing out his trash, and he has the nerve to call the cops and frame me? He sounded so ridiculously self-righteous, acting like he was the actual victim here. Hearing the commotion, The neighbors started poking their heads out to watch the drama unfold. Why are there so many cops at the Fang's place? I think it's over a motorcycle. Must be that new one Jiang just bought, right? It was a real beauty. How in the world is that trash? In the face of Liu Dishun's blatant gaslighting, I didn't say a single word. Chief Ji Yu stared him down, completely deadpan. Liu Dishun, we're going to ask you a few questions, and you will answer them truthfully. Did you, or did you not, sell that motorcycle? Yeah, I sold it, for 3,000 yuan. I was even gonna give him a 1,500 cut, but this brat went straight to the cops. Who gave you the right to sell someone else's property? What right? That piece of junk was taking up public space. As a homeowner here, I have every right to deal with it. Besides, I didn't just throw it away. I got him cash for it. I was doing him a favor. You could already hear some of the neighbors snickering in the hallway. The sheer audacity of his logic was unbelievable. Chief Ji Yu was done playing games. He grabbed a folder from Officer Lin and snapped it open right in his face. This is the original purchase invoice and the custom modification receipt provided by the owner, Mr. Jiang Yi. The base price of the motorcycle was 230,000 yuan. The custom mods cost another 124,000, bringing the grand total to 354,000 yuan. According to Article 264 of the criminal law, theft of private property involving an exceptionally large sum carries a sentence of 10 years to life in prison. Every single word out of Chief Gu's mouth hit Liu Dishun's face like a sledgehammer. Liu Dishun stared dead at the paperwork. All that smug, cocky arrogance on his face instantly froze the second he saw that long string of zeros. His jaw went slack, and a raspy, choking sound slipped out of his throat. Like he couldn't even breathe. No, that's impossible. How could a damn motorcycle cost over 350,000? You're lying. You're all teaming up to scam me. His wife, Zhao Gilan, also ran out from the house. What's wrong, Lao Feng? What happened? When she saw the police at the door and the crowd of staring neighbors, she panicked too. Officers. Is there some kind of misunderstanding? Our Lao Feng is an honest man. A misunderstanding? He sold your neighbor's 350,000 yuan car for 3,000. You call that a misunderstanding? Zhao Gilan's eyes instantly bulged. 350,000? Her shriek echoed through the entire hallway. The whole world seemed to stand perfectly still in that moment. All the onlookers gasped sharply. The way they looked at me shifted from pity to shock and then to absolute awe. Liu Dishun's face had completely drained of color. He leaned heavily against the doorframe, his body teetering. 350,000, over 10 years in prison. Those two phrases hit him like massive mountains, instantly crushing every last one of his mental defenses. Lao Feng, who did you sell the car to? Zhao Gilan snapped back to reality, grabbing Liu Dishun's arm and shaking him frantically. Quick, get the car back. Over 350,000. How the hell are we supposed to pay that back? Liu Dishun's lips trembled, unable to speak a single word for a long time. Liu Dishun, right now, immediately, tell us right now. Who did you sell the car to? Where is the buyer? I sold it to a junk collector. I can't find him anymore, and I lost all the money playing cards. Zhao Gilan burst into loud, agonizing wails. She slumped to the floor, crawling over to me on her hands and knees, and desperately hugged my leg. Xiao Jiang. Mr. Jiang. Please, have mercy. Please let our Lao Feng off the hook. He's just a confused old fool. He doesn't know any better. Her cries were harrowing. Filled with absolute despair, her face a total mess of snot and tears. Her previous arrogance was completely gone. The surrounding neighbors pointed fingers, whispering among themselves. 350,000. My God, he really messed with the wrong guy this time. He threw himself right into the meat grinder. Serves him right. He was always the one taking cheap advantage of people. Well, look at him now. Karma's finally here. I looked down at Zhao Gilan at my feet, my eyes not showing a single ripple of emotion. Pitiful? Maybe a little. But pitiful people always have hateful traits. If my car had only been worth 3,000 today, would she be making this face right now? She would only stand on her moral high ground alongside Liu Dishun, mocking me for being a clueless young kid, and then comfortably pocket her 1,500 yuan kickback. I gently lifted my leg, breaking free from her grip. Save those words for the judge. My voice wasn't loud, but it reached the ears of everyone present with crystal clarity. Zhao Gilan froze, staring at me in sheer disbelief. She probably never imagined that, even at a moment like this, I could still be so utterly cold and ruthless. Chief Ji Yu shot a glance at Officer Lin. Officer Lin and another policeman stepped forward, grabbing the completely devastated Liu Dishun by both arms. Liu Dishun, you are suspected of theft. We are now officially bringing you in. Please come back to the station with us for investigation. A pair of cold handcuffs clamped onto Liu Dishun's wrists. That crisp click sounded like the final judgment for a lifetime of arrogant and unreasonable behavior. Liu Dishun went completely limp, almost having to be dragged away by the two officers. His eyes were blank, and he just kept muttering to himself, how could it be 350,000? That's impossible. Zhao Guilan tried to lunge forward, but a female officer held her back. Officer? Comrade, by the laws of this country you can't just arrest him. Officer. He's an old man. He's not in good health, officer. We live in a society governed by law. You can't just use his age as an excuse to get away with things. He broke the law, and now he has to face the consequences. What you need to do right now isn't crying and making a scene here. You need to figure out how to contact the buyer. Returning the stolen money voluntarily is his only chance at a lighter sentence. After saying that, Chief Ji-yu ignored her and turned to me. Mr. Zhang, please come down to the station with us as well. We'll need to take a detailed statement. I nodded. Our group walked downstairs with everyone watching. A crowd of nosy neighbors had already gathered at the bottom. Seeing Liu Dishun being escorted out in handcuffs by the cops, the crowd instantly erupted into whispers. I followed behind them, keeping a totally calm expression. I could hear people gossiping about me. This kid is absolutely ruthless. He didn't show any mercy at all. Ruthless? How would you feel if someone sold your stuff worth over 350,000? Let's see how ruthless you'd be. Exactly. You just can't go soft on an old scoundrel like him. I didn't care about their gossip. Once we got into the police car, Officer Lin took my statement. I went over the whole story from buying the bike and modifying it, to Liu Dishun's phone call, and finally, my call to the cops. I explained everything in full detail. Meanwhile, the chief was personally interrogating Liu Dishun, but Liu Dishun was already having a mental breakdown, just repeating the word impossible over and over. I don't know. I didn't do it on purpose. As for the scrap collector, all he knew was that the guy's last name was Huang. He usually hung around the nearby neighborhoods and didn't even have a phone number, let alone knowing where the guy lived. The trail seemed to go dead right there. Chief Ji-yu walked out of the interrogation room with a serious look on his face. Mr. Jiang, things aren't looking too good. We can't get any useful leads out of Liu Dishun. If that bike really gets chopped up for scrap metal, it's going to be extremely hard to recover your losses. Chief Ji-yu, I believe in the system. They can't just vanish into thin air. The security cameras in the neighborhood and at the nearby intersections should have caught that scrap collector's tricycle. Chief Ga's eyes lit up. I'll have someone pull the security footage right away. He sprang into action, and the whole police station kicked into high gear. Right at that moment, my phone rang. Hello? Is this Zhang Yi? Speaking. I'm Liu Dishun's son, Liu Xiao. My mom told me what happened. Just a motorcycle, isn't it? What's the big deal? Look, I'll pay you 50,000. You go to the police station right now and drop the charges. And let my dad out. 50,000? I almost burst out laughing. The apple really doesn't fall far from the tree. His old man sold a bike worth 350,000 for just 3,000. And he actually thinks 50,000 will make all this go away. You think my bike is only worth 50,000? How much could a motorcycle possibly be worth? 50,000 is a lot of money. Don't push your luck. I'm warning you. If anything happens to my dad, I'll make your life a living hell, a blatant threat. But I wasn't even angry. Instead, I just laughed. All right, I'm waiting. And just a friendly reminder, this phone call is legally considered threatening a victim. It's an obstruction of justice. Plus, I've been recording this whole time. With that, I just hung up. On the other end of the line, Liu Xiao's face was probably green with rage. I played the recording out loud, right in front of Chief Ji-yu. Chief Gu's face instantly went so dark it was practically storming. The old man is completely clueless and reckless. And the son is an arrogant brat. This is a blatant mockery of the law. He grabbed his walkie-talkie, his voice ice cold. Tech unit. Track the location of this phone number immediately. Tactical team, get ready. Today, I'm going to make sure the whole family gets locked up together. The security footage was pulled up in no time. Fueled by Chief Gu's absolute rage, the efficiency of the West Side Station hit an all-time high. The cameras at the neighborhood gate clearly caught the footage from yesterday afternoon. A beat-up electric tricycle, carrying a motorcycle covered by a heavy tarp, slowly rolled out of the neighborhood. Even though it was covered up, that unmistakable shape and size. It was definitely my Ninja H2. Right there, right there. That's him, I shouted, pointing at the man wearing a straw hat on the screen. Zoom in on that. Get a clear shot of his face. Chief Ji-yu barked the order, and the tech guys got straight to work. A reasonably clear photo of his side profile was printed out. Take this picture and hit up all the scrapyards and neighborhoods around here. Dig this guy up for me. Several teams of officers immediately grabbed their gear and headed out. I stayed behind at the station to wait for news. The waiting was absolute torture. I had no idea what state my bike was in. Was it already chopped up for parts? Or just stashed away in some dark corner? I didn't even dare to imagine the worst-case scenario. About an hour or so later, Chief Gu's radio cracked to life. Chief! We got him! He's at a massive scrapyard out in the suburbs. And the bike is here too. Not a single scratch on it. Hearing those words, my completely fried nerves finally relaxed. It felt like all the strength just drained right out of my body, and I slumped back in my chair. Thank God. A huge smile broke out on Chief Gu's face too. Come on, Mr. Zhang. Let's go take a look. We instantly hopped in the cruiser and rushed out to the suburban scrapyard. The car bounced around on a terribly potholed dirt road for a solid 10 minutes. Before we finally pulled up, the sight in front of us was honestly kind of wild. Mountains upon mountains of scrap metal, plastic, and ripped cardboard were piled up everywhere. And right there, under this massive tin roof, was my bike, hidden under a giant tarp. A few cops were standing guard next to it. That scrapyard boss, Liu, was squatting on the dirt, looking totally defeated as they questioned him. I practically sprinted over there and ripped the tarp off. That beautiful, familiar Kawasaki green instantly filled my eyes. The body was a bit dirty, covered in a layer of dust, and there was a tiny scratch on the left rearview mirror. The Brembo calipers, the Olin suspension, the Akrapovich exhaust, they were all still there. I reached out and gently stroked the cold body of the bike. A million emotions rushed through me. It was like getting back a lost treasure. Officer Lin was taking Boss Huang's statement. What exactly happened? Officer, I swear I'm innocent. It was that guy named Liu. He swore up and down that it was just some piece of junk his son didn't want anymore. He said it was taking up too much space and told me to get rid of it. I saw how nice the bike looked, so I asked him about it. He asked for $3,000 and told me to haul it away immediately. I was a bit suspicious at the time too. I mean, there's no way this thing looked like junk. But I figured, hey, a free lunch is a free lunch. Why pass up a good deal? So I gave him $3,000 and hauled it back. This is a textbook case of fencing stolen goods. You knew the origins were sketchy, yet you still bought it for dirt cheap. I wasn't trying to fence stolen goods. After I brought it back, the more I looked at it, the more something felt off. The bike was way too new. I didn't even recognize half the parts on it, but I could just tell they were insanely expensive. I'm just a junk guy. How could I dare strip down something like this? I figured I'd just hide it first, wait for the heat to die down, and then find a bike expert to appraise it, see if I could sell it for a good price. I swear I never even started the engine. His words indirectly confirmed just how valuable my bike was. Even a scrap collector knew this wasn't just any ordinary bike. Only an arrogant, ignorant fool like Liu Deshun would treat it like a pile of scrap metal. Chief Ji walked over to me and patted me on the shoulder. Mr. Zhang, mission accomplished. We got your bike back for you. Thank you so much, Chief Ji, and to all the officers. It's our duty. Next up, this bike needs to be held as physical evidence. We'll impound it for now, and once the trial is over, it will be officially returned to you. I nodded in understanding. As for the damages to the bike, we'll have a professional appraisal agency estimate the cost to serve as evidence for your civil lawsuit later. That scratch on the rearview mirror must have happened during transport. It's not just the scratches. This bike is a limited edition. Any unauthorized transportation or storage could cause potential damage to the paint, the electrical systems, and its overall performance. All of this requires a comprehensive inspection and assessment. I spoke with professional authority. Chief Ji paused for a second, then nodded. You're absolutely right. We'll make sure to pass your concerns directly onto the appraisal agency. With things at this stage, the culprit and the stolen goods had been secured, and the evidence was rock solid. The audition's theft charge was a done deal. And as for Boss Huang, although he couldn't completely dodge the charge of fencing stolen goods, he had actively cooperated, and the bike was largely intact, so he would likely get a lighter sentence. Just then, another team of officers radioed in. Liu Deshun's son, Liu Xiao, had been found at his own company and had been brought back to the station. Chief Ji looked at me and grinned. Mr. Zhang, things are about to get lively today. Let's go back and see what that punk has to say for himself. We returned to the station. As soon as we walked through the main doors, we saw a young man in a suit, his hair slicked back with grease, sitting impatiently in the waiting area. It was Liu Xiao, and right beside him, Zhao Gilan was sobbing and blabbering something to him. Seeing me walk in, Liu Xiao immediately stood up. He stormed right up to me. So, you're Zhang Ye? I'll give you one last chance. 100,000, and we settle this out of court. Otherwise, I'll make sure you can't survive in this city. I stared at Liu Xiao, standing right in front of me. I found it a bit hilarious. He clearly had absolutely no idea what was actually going on. Or maybe throughout his entire life, he was just used to solving every single problem with money and status. He really thought 100,000 and a cheap threat would be enough to make me cave. Liu Xiao, is it? Before you open your mouth again, I highly suggest you go read up on two basic legal concepts. First, what constitutes an exceptionally huge amount in a theft case? And second, what the principle of public prosecution actually means. A criminal case isn't something you can just pay off and sweep under the rug. My words wiped the smug look right off his face. He clearly didn't expect me to throw the law right back at him. Cut the crap. You just want more money, don't you? Stop acting so high and mighty. 200,000. That is my absolute final offer. If you don't know what's good for you, don't blame me for getting nasty. Just then, Chief Ji walked over from behind us, his face completely livid. Liu Xiao, This is a police station, not your family's personal company. You're in here yelling and threatening the person who reported the crime. Who on earth gave you the nerve? I wasn't threatening him. I just wanted to negotiate a settlement. Negotiate? Your father stole $350,000 worth of property from him? And you're trying to settle it with $200,000? You sure know how to do the math, don't you? Oh, and about that phone call you just made threatening Mr. Jang? We have the whole thing recorded right here. Obstruction of justice, plus an extra charge of malicious defamation. Seems to me like you're just dying to keep your dad company in a cell, aren't you? Every single word from Chief GU felt like a heavy sledgehammer smashing into Liu Xiao's chest. Cold sweat started pouring down his forehead. He finally realized that this time, the situation was on a completely different level than the little messes he usually wriggled out of. Next to him, Zhao Gilan was already so terrified she had stopped crying, now just trembling uncontrollably. Officer, sir, this is all just a huge misunderstanding. I just got back from a business trip out of town, so I don't really know what's going on yet. I just acted on impulse. Please don't hold it against me. He's just an old, confused man. As for whether he did it on purpose, the law will make that judgment. Right now, Liu Deshun is a suspect for theft. Huang is a suspect for fencing stolen goods, and you are a suspect for obstructing justice. You all need to be investigated. Officer Lin, take this mother and son to the interrogation room too. Question them separately. Officer Lin stepped right up to Liu Xiao and his mother, gesturing for them to move. Liu Xiao's face turned completely pale. He looked over at me, desperately silently begging for help. I just gave him a look that said, "Too bad, I can't help you. You reap exactly what you sow." The office finally quieted down. Chief GU poured me a glass of water. "Mr. Jang, I'm so sorry you had to witness that mess. It's nothing. You know what they say, in a big forest, there are all kinds of birds. Yeah, this family has definitely been spoiled rotten. I just had someone run a background check on him. This Liu Xiao runs a little startup of his own, and he's totally used to throwing his weight around town. He really thinks money can solve every little thing. Well, this time, we're gonna give him a proper re-education on how the actual law works." The rest of the process went as smoothly as expected. Regarding his theft, Liu Deshun confessed to their crimes. Boss Wang also admitted that he was just greedy for a cheap deal. He had bought vehicles of unknown origin at a ridiculously low price. Faced with the recording, the hard evidence, and the sheer power of the law, Liu Xiao and Zhao Gilan finally came clean and confessed everything. Because the chain of evidence was airtight and the facts were crystal clear, the case was quickly handed over to the prosecutor's office. On my end, I officially hired a lawyer to handle the follow-up civil lawsuit. My demands were simple. First, I want Liu Deshun to be held criminally responsible. I will absolutely not settle. Second, I demand that Liu Deshun compensate me for all my financial losses. This includes the vehicle's depreciation, the professional inspection and repair fees, and the transportation costs I racked up because I couldn't use my car while it was stolen, and so on. After carefully going over all my receipts and evidence, my lawyer estimated a compensation amount for me. It was $400,000 at the very least. When the news reached Liu Xiao, rumor has it that he lost his mind right then and there and completely smashed an antique vase in his house. Over the next few days, I became quite the celebrity in our neighborhood. Everyone looked at me with total awe. No one ever dared to park illegally in front of my house again or pile up their trash in the hallway. The whole vibe of the neighborhood seemed to clean right up. Meanwhile, Liu Deshun's family became public enemies. His family tried every trick in the book. First, they got all sorts of relatives and friends to come beg for mercy. I refused to see a single one of them. Then, Liu Xiao tried to throw money at the problem. He bumped the compensation offer from $200,000 all the way up to $300,000, then $350,000. I had my lawyer reject every single one. This was never about the money. This was about principle. With some people, you just have to hit them where it hurts and scare them completely. Just once. So they finally learned what respect means. Seeing that neither playing nice nor playing tough was working, they came up with a new trick. Playing the victim. Zhao Gilan would sit at the entrance of our building every single day, crying and whining to anyone who would listen. She said I was being utterly ruthless and pushing their family to a dead end. A few oblivious neighbors and some busybody aunties and uncles who loved playing peacemaker started pointing fingers at me. Faced with all this nonsense, I didn't even bother arguing. I just quietly printed something out and stuck it right on the building's bulletin board. It was the official arrest warrant for Liu Deshun, issued by the prosecutor's office. Right below it, I attached a small handwritten note of my own. Ignorance is no excuse for a crime. Everyone is equal before the law. Over at the bulletin board, my little declaration became the absolute talk of the neighborhood. That photocopy of the arrest warrant was louder and more powerful than any argument I could have made. Those very same neighbors who had told me to be the bigger person were now avoiding me like the plague. Their eyes were filled with a mix of awe and a barely noticeable trace of fear. They weren't afraid of me. What they were afraid of was someone who didn't play by their usual rules, but whose every move was backed up completely by the law. Zhao Gilan's crying magically stopped too. She no longer sat by the door playing the victim, because every single person who walked past that bulletin board would shoot her looks of pure disgust. But I knew. This was just the calm before the storm. The Liu family wasn't going to let this go that easily, especially Liu Xiao, that arrogant guy who was so used to using his money and power to make his problems disappear. After he was released from the police station, he didn't reach out to me a single time. That wasn't normal. Knowing his personality, he was either a corner dog, ready to bite, or he was brewing an even bigger, nastier scheme. I didn't let my guard down. I gave my lawyer a call and told him all about my concerns regarding Liu Xiao. He told me to be extra careful and to watch out for my personal safety. The criminal case had already moved into the public prosecution phase at the prosecutor's office. Liu Deshun going to prison was already a done deal. As for our civil lawsuit, it had already been filed, and we were just waiting for the court date. Everything was heading in the right direction, but that hint of unease in my heart was growing stronger and stronger. On Monday, I went to work as usual. The company I work for is a mid-sized tech firm that provides enterprise services. I'm a project manager, a mid-level position. It's not exactly an easy job, but it's decent enough. As soon as I got to the office, I felt that something was off. My colleagues were looking at me shiftily, and a few close work buddies looked like they wanted to say something but held back. My heart skipped a beat. Sure enough, here it comes. I went back to my desk, and just as I turned on my computer, a colleague from admin walked over. Jiang Yi, Mr. Qin wants you in his office. Mr. Qin is the boss of our company, a sharp and capable man in his 40s. He rarely talks directly to employees at my level. It looked like Liu Xiao's dirty tricks had already reached the company. I took a deep breath, straightened my clothes, and headed to the general manager's office. The office door was open. Mr. Qin was sitting in his executive chair, his face calm, showing no sign of emotion. Mr. Twin, you wanted to see me? Yeah, have a seat. He pointed to the chair opposite him. I sat down, sitting bolt upright. I didn't volunteer any explanations, because I knew that before I walked in, Liu Xiao must have already fed Mr. Qin his highly exaggerated version of the story. Now it was just a matter of who Mr. Qin believed. After about half a minute of silence, Mr. Qin finally spoke. I received a phone call today. From Liu Xiao at Dingsheng Group. Dingsheng Group is the name of Liu Xiao's company. It sounds intimidating, but in reality, it's just a small, downstream supply chain company. However, they are currently negotiating a partnership project with us. If the deal goes through, it would be a pretty big order for our company. He told me a lot of things about you. He said you were throwing your weight around, and that you sent an elderly neighbor of yours to prison. He also said you were extorting them, demanding an outrageous amount, asking for 400,000 in compensation. He said you have character issues, and keeping you in the company would be a risk for us. He repeated Liu Xiao's words in a very flat tone, but beneath that calmness, I could hear the scrutiny of a decision maker. My future here might be decided in a split second. I wasn't in a rush to defend myself. I waited for him to finish before speaking up slowly. Mr. Qin, did he happen to tell you what that neighbor of mine actually did to me? He only mentioned it was a petty neighborhood dispute. Well, I have a motorcycle that I bought for 350,000. My neighbor, while I was away, he sold it as scrap for 3,000 yuan, and then he called me, demanding I give him a 1,500 yuan cut. Afterwards, his son, Liu Xiao, called to threaten me, demanding 50,000 yuan to settle it privately. When I refused, he showed up right at the police station, and right in front of the officers, he threatened to run me out of the city. Did he happen to mention any of that to you? By the time I finished, his face had already darkened. I pulled a stack of documents out of my briefcase, the exact same ones I gave the police. The original purchase invoice, the modification parts list, and the import customs declarations. I gently placed them down on Mr. Qin's desk. I also took out my phone and played an audio recording. Let me tell you something. If anything happens to my dad, you're gonna pay for it. Liu Xiao's arrogant, overbearing voice sounded incredibly jarring in the quiet office. At this point, Mr. Qin looked absolutely furious. He picked up the documents and flipped through them quickly. $3,000, $25,000. When he saw those pages of $25,000 astronomical price tags on the modification parts list, a hint of surprise flashed in his eyes. After the recording finished playing, he looked up at me. His entire expression had changed. Jiang Yi, you're a gearhead too? I froze for a second, but then it clicked. Mr. Quinn, you're into cars too? Mr. Qin just smiled and walked over to a cabinet in the corner of his office. He opened the doors, but it wasn't filled with files. Instead, it was filled with exquisite model cars. Right in the middle sat a stunning Porsche 911 GT3 RS. I used to love tuning cars when I was younger too. 97, 99, 99. But as I got older, 99, I just didn't have the energy for it anymore. 97, 99, 99. Now, collecting these is all I have left of the hobby. He picked up the 911 model and wiped it gently. Brembo brakes, Öhlins suspension. People who mess around with this kind of gear are either reckless kids or guys who are absolutely obsessed with mechanics and pure performance. And I can tell you're the latter. You handled this situation perfectly. When you're faced with stupidity and arrogance, you have to strike back with the coldest, sharpest weapon you've got. Teach them a lesson they'll never forget for the rest of their lives. Hearing that, a massive weight was finally lifted off my shoulders. My gamble had paid off. Mr. Chin was a reasonable man, and someone who could judge a situation for himself. Mr. Chin sat back down in his chair, picked up his desk phone, and dialed an extension. Cancel our partnership with the Dingsang Group immediately. You want to know why? Because I refuse to work with a company that tries to use a business partnership to meddle in our internal HR affairs. Not to mention one that goes around threatening our own employees. It's too much of a liability. I'm worried that one day, they might just use those exact same dirty tactics to threaten our entire company. He slammed the phone down, then looked at me with an approving smile. Jiang Yi, you actually did me a favor by bringing this to my attention. You just helped the company dodge a massive bullet. As I walked out of Mr. Kuen's office, the whole world felt a little brighter. I bumped into a few colleagues in the hallway. The looks on their faces had completely shifted from worry and pity straight to curiosity and absolute awe. Clearly, the news that Mr. Chin had completely cut ties with the Dingsang Group had already spread like wildfire through the office. I didn't explain much, just nodded at them. I went back to my seat. I knew Liu Xiao's attempt to sabotage my career had completely failed. And not only did he fail, he actually shot himself in the foot. For a small company of his size, our company was a pretty significant potential client. Losing this deal was definitely a massive blow to him. But that was only the beginning. That afternoon, my lawyer gave me a call. Mr. Jiang, I've got some great news. The damage assessment report for your car is out, and the results are even better than we expected. How so? The assessment agency was incredibly professional. Not only did they evaluate the repair costs for the scratches on the rearview mirror, they also accepted our arguments about the potential damage caused to a limited edition car by unofficial towing and storage. The report pointed out that because the car was transported by amateurs using improper tools and methods and then stored in terrible conditions, it suffered multiple microscopic scratches that are hard to see with the naked eye. Plus, the car's precision electronic systems are at risk of moisture and dust damage. The report recommends a top-tier deep cleaning, maintenance, and full system diagnostic for the entire vehicle. Adding up all these costs, the assessed direct economic loss comes to 48,000 yuan. 48,000 yuan? And that doesn't even include the depreciation the car will suffer in the used car market because it was stolen. Exactly. For that hidden loss, the assessment agency also provided an expert opinion. They estimate it will drop the car's value by 10 to 15%, which means, just for the damage to the car itself, we can claim at least 80,000 yuan or more. Listening to my lawyer's breakdown, my respect for his professionalism grew even more. Sure enough, it's always best to leave professional matters to the experts. The most important part is, he continued, this report will be submitted to the prosecutor's office and used for sentencing in the criminal case. Originally, since the car was recovered, the court might have shown some leniency. But now, with this assessment report proving severe consequences, Liu Deshun's charges are completely locked in. He's looking at 10 years minimum, no escape. I hung up the phone with mixed feelings. I'm not a vindictive person, and I never wanted to ruin anyone's life. But from the very moment Liu Deshun sold my car, he chose this path. He has to face the consequences. Ignorance and stupidity are never excuses for breaking the law. Over the next few days, Liu Xiao completely vanished. I heard that Dingsang Group's cash flow was running into serious trouble. Mr. Chin had quite a bit of influence in their circle, and he had put the word out. Liu Xiao from Dingsang Group had terrible character and zero morals in business. A lot of companies that were planning to work with him immediately started reassessing the risks. Liu Xiao was probably drowning in his own mess, way too busy to bother me anymore. The civil lawsuit was scheduled for a month later, but Liu Deshun's criminal trial moved much faster. On the day of the trial, I attended as the victim. In the courtroom, I saw Liu Deshun again. In less than a month, he looked like he had aged a decade. His hair had mostly turned white, and his whole body was hunched over. His eyes were filled with fear and despair as the prosecutor read the indictment, detailing exactly how he had secretly taken my motorcycle and how his actions had resulted in severe damage. As each fact was listed out, he was trembling all over. When my lawyer presented that invoice for 350,000 yuan, along with the damage report for nearly 50,000 yuan as evidence, a collective gasp echoed through the gallery. Liu Deshun's defense lawyer tried to argue that he had no subjective intention to steal, and that it was just an ignorant mistake, framing his defense from that angle. But in the face of hard evidence, it sounded incredibly weak. Do you realize the wrongdoing in your actions? Liu Deshun raised his head, his cloudy eyes looking right at me. His lips trembled. I was really wrong. I never should have touched your bike without asking. I never should have done such a thing. His voice choked with sobs. It was the very first time I had seen him show any real remorse. But sadly, it was far too late. The court isn't a flea market. And justice isn't some commodity you can bargain for during the final statement phase. I waived my right to speak because I felt there was simply nothing left to say. The facts spoke for themselves. The judge announced the verdict right then and there. The defendant, Liu Deshun, is guilty of theft. The amount of stolen property is exceptionally large, causing severe consequences. The facts are clear, and the evidence is conclusive. Taking into account the circumstances of the crime and his show of remorse, he is sentenced to 11 years in prison with a deprivation of political rights for 3 years and a fine of 50,000 yuan. Liu Deshun's eyes rolled back, and he collapsed straight into the defendant's dock. I stood up without looking back and calmly walked out of the courtroom. I knew Liu Deshun's trial was over, but the trial for Liao Xiao and their entire family had only just begun. They still had a civil compensation bill of 400,000 yuan waiting to be paid after Liu Deshun's sentence came down. The sky completely fell on the Liu family. An 11-year prison term. For a man in his 50s, what that means goes without saying. Zhao Gilan fell seriously ill. I heard she was bedridden in the hospital for over half a month. Meanwhile, Liu Xiao was facing a much more realistic dilemma. Money. His dad was fined 50,000 yuan, and my civil lawsuit for 400,000 in damages also went to trial right on schedule. In court, Liu Xiao's lawyer tried to haggle with me. They admitted the fact that the bike was damaged, but they raised objections to the compensation amount. They argued that my claim was too high, especially the part about the second-hand depreciation, calling it pure speculation with no legal basis. My lawyer, however, didn't panic at all. This is a professional appraisal report, issued by one of the most authoritative used vehicle appraisal agencies in the country. The report provides a detailed analysis of my client's limited edition Ninja H2. After being stolen and stored in a harsh environment for a long period, it suffered permanent damage to both its collection value and market circulation value. The report concludes that the estimated loss in value is between 80,000 and 120,000 yuan. We took the median value of 100,000 yuan. This report hit like a heavy punch, completely shattering any illusions the opposing lawyer had left. In the end, the court almost fully supported my claims. They ordered Liu Deshun and his family to compensate me for all economic losses, totaling 386,000 yuan. Adding the previous criminal fine of 50,000, the Liu family had to cough up over 430,000 yuan. That number, without a doubt, was an astronomical figure. And for Liu Xiao, it was a devastating blow, more than enough to completely break him. I heard that the day after the verdict came down, he started frantically selling off his assets. The old house their family had lived in for over 20 years was put on the market. His own BMW, and even some of the valuable office equipment from his company, were all posted on second-hand websites. But even so, scraping together that amount of cash completely drained him. With his funds emptied out, his company's operations quickly ground to a halt. And you know what they say? When a wall falls, everyone gives it a shove. The competitors he had bullied in the past, and the suppliers he owed money to, all came knocking at his door. In less than 2 months, Dingsheng Group declared bankruptcy. During all this, he reached out to me once through his lawyer, begging for an extension, hoping I'd let him pay the compensation in installments. I agreed. But I had one condition. Liu Xiao had to write a public apology letter, clearly spelling out his father's greed and ignorance. Along with his own arrogant behavior, he had to detail exactly how they tried to threaten me and interfere with justice, and post it on the neighborhood bulletin board for a whole month. Liu Xiao stayed silent for a long time, but eventually he agreed because he really had no other choice. A few days later, right next to the red arrest warrant on the bulletin board, there was a stark black and white apology letter. Every day, the residents would stop to read it as they walked by and let out a heavy sigh. It was a stronger warning than any lecture could ever be. I also got my motorcycle back from the police station. I took it to the best repair shop in town and gave it a complete overhaul and tune-up, using a chunk of the compensation money. I tucked the rest of the money into savings. Life seemed to be getting back on track. I was still just an ordinary project manager, squeezing onto the subway every day for work. Except, when I threw my leg over that Kawasaki Ninja R again and twisted the throttle, listening to that familiar roar of the engine, my mindset was completely different. It was no longer just a weapon against a boring life. It was a symbol of my refusal to compromise, a badge of honor for defending justice. That evening, I was cruising down the city expressway when my phone rang through my helmet's Bluetooth. It was Mr. Qin. Jiang Yi, where are you? Mr. Quinn, I'm just out for a ride. I've got some great news for you. You know how Liu Xiao's project fell through, right? Well, the client from that project is actually really interested in our company. They heard how we dropped the deal just to protect our employees, and they absolutely loved our company culture. They officially signed a contract with us today. The deal is worth 3 times as much as Liu Xiao's contract. Plus, their CEO is a massive motorcycle fanatic. He specifically asked to meet you. He said he wants to chat with you about tuning Olin suspensions. The sudden invite caught me off guard, but it hit me pretty quickly. This could be a huge turning point in my life. I hung up the phone, feeling a rush of warmth in my chest. Even though Mr. Chin was half joking, I could read between the lines. He was treating me like one of his own. He wasn't just seeing me as a regular employee anymore, but as a friend worth mentoring and introducing to the big leagues. Friday night, at 7 o'clock, I followed the address Mr. Chin gave me to an exclusive private club downtown. There was no sign out front, just a massive, heavy ebony door. The staff at the door was incredibly polite, and after verifying who I was, before leading me inside, the club's interior decor was low-key yet luxurious. Every single detail revealed extraordinary taste. Boss Chin was waiting for me in a private room named Guanlan. When I pushed the door open and went in, he was with a man who looked to be around 50 years old or so, chatting very happily. That man was wearing a well-fitted, traditional Chinese button-up shirt. He had an elegant aura with deep, thoughtful eyes. Every movement he made naturally carried an air of steady authority from someone used to being in power. He must be the boss of our client company. Boss Chin, Jiang, is here. Boss Chin stood up and warmly introduced us. This is Chairman Wei Hongshan, Boss Wei. Boss Wei, this is the guy that first mentioned to you. Our company's project manager, Jiang Yi. I reached out my hand, neither humble nor arrogant. Nice to meet you, Boss Wei. Jiang Yi, right? Wei Hongshan smiled and shook my hand. His palm was broad and powerful. Boss Chin has told me all about your situation. You handled it really well, young man. You've got both courage and brains. Definitely cut out for big things. You flatter me, Boss Wei. I just did what I thought was right. Haha, what a great way to put it. These days, being able to stick to doing the right thing is an amazing quality in itself. Come on, don't just stand there. Take a seat. The dinner's atmosphere was much more relaxed than I had imagined. Wei Hongshan and Boss Chin seemed to have a tacit understanding to steer the conversation towards our shared hobby, motorcycles. Jiang Yi? I heard your ride is a Ninja H2. Yes, the carbon fiber edition. Now that is a real beauty. A supercharged beast. So how's the tuning on that Olin suspension setup going? One sentence and he hit the nail on the head. This guy was definitely a pro. I'm still figuring it out. The factory settings lean more towards street riding, so the support in high-speed corners is still a bit lacking. I'm trying to increase the preload, while slowing down the rebound damping by 2 clicks. I'm hoping to improve the rear wheel's tracking. My answer made the look of appreciation in Wei Hongshan's eyes grow even stronger. Exactly! That's just how the Olin's FGTR series behaves. You really have to put some thought into tuning it. Not like the electronic suspensions from certain other brands. They might seem smart, but they actually strip away half the fun for the rider. Real enthusiasts just love this kind of deep, hands-on connection with the machinery. Beside us, Boss Chin watched with a smile. Even though he knew a bit about bikes, he clearly wasn't as hardcore of a gearhead as Wei Hongshan and I were. The rest of the time practically turned into a private chat session between me and Wei Hongshan. From the breaking linearity of Brembo Stylema calipers, to how different materials in a Krapovich exhausts affect the exhaust notes, and even the basics and risks of ECU flashing. The more we talked, the more we clicked. It felt like we should have met years ago. Wei Hongshan even took out his phone to show me the collection in his garage. A Ducati Panigale V4, Ducati Panigale, a BMW HP4 Race, Panigale, MV Agusta F4 Claudio. Every single one of them was a work of art in the motorcycle world, the ultimate dream of countless riders. I set up a little spot. I guess you could call it a private garage. It's also sort of an enthusiasts club. It's filled with people just like you and me, friends who truly love and understand bikes. We usually gather around to chat and mod our rides and occasionally hit the track for a few laps. Would you be interested in coming over to hang out? I knew this wasn't just an invitation. It was a ticket to a whole new world. An elite circle made up of top-tier players. I had absolutely no reason to turn it down. Of course, it's my absolute honor. On Saturday afternoon, following the location Wei Hongshan sent me, I drove all the way to the other side of the city. It was a quiet industrial park. The navigation ended at a completely ordinary-looking gray warehouse. The place had zero signage, just a massive, heavy roller shutter door. I parked my car and walked up to the door, feeling a bit confused. There was a small scanner on it. I pulled up the digital invitation on my phone and scanned it. Identity confirmed. Welcome, Mr. Jiang Yi. An automated voice rang out, and the heavy shutter slowly rolled up in front of me. The sight behind that door instantly took my breath away. This wasn't some warehouse. This was an absolute sanctuary for motorcycles. The massive, high-ceiling space was split into several different zones. On the left was a professional maintenance area, fully equipped with multiple hydraulic lifts and all sorts of precision diagnostic gear. A few mechanics in professional uniforms were busy tuning up an Aprilia. Over on the right was a bright, spacious display zone. More than a dozen world-class motorcycles were displayed under spotlights, just like museum art pieces. Every single one was polished, spotless, gleaming with that irresistible metallic shine. Straight ahead was a 2-story lounge. Downstairs had a bar and a cozy sofa area. Upstairs looked like a pool room and a racing simulator zone. Right then, there were about 7 or 8 guys gathered in small groups around the lounge, just chatting away. Wei Hongshan spotted me, smiled, and stood up from the sofa to walk over. So, my little secret base isn't too shabby, right? Mr. Wei, this goes way beyond not too shabby. This is literally every rider's ultimate dream. Ha ha ha. We're all fellow enthusiasts here. Drop the Mr. Wei stuff. Just call me Old Wei or Brother Wei, whatever works. Wei Hongshan patted my shoulder, acting incredibly warm and welcoming. He led me over to the lounge area to introduce me to the rest of the crew. Everyone, this is Jiang Yi. He rides a Ninja H2, absolute tech geek. Let me introduce you to the rest of the guys. This right here is Gao Zhanming, Attorney Gao. One of the absolute sharpest minds in all of Shanghai when it comes to financial lawsuits. And this is Dr. Wen Jingran, top-tier cardiac surgeon over at Rujin Hospital. A surprisingly young-looking guy smiled and reached out his hand to shake mine. And this is Boss Liu Zhe. He just launched his own publicly listed gaming company. A guy with shoulder-length hair and a strong artistic vibe raised his glass to me. Every single person in this room was an absolute elite in their respective fields. The only thing tying them all together was their deep, bone-deep passion for motorcycles. This was a true top-tier inner circle. I smiled and shook hands with everyone, but deep down, I felt a wave of emotion. If it hadn't been for Liu Deshun's sheer stupidity, I probably would have never gotten the chance to step into a circle like this. Just then, a slightly off-putting voice broke the mood. An H2? The carbon fiber edition? The guy speaking was a young dude, maybe 27 or 28. He was sitting a bit further away from us. He looked me up and down with this scrutinizing, skeptical look in his eyes. I've heard about you. You're that ruthless guy. Your neighbor sold your bike, so you turned around and sent him away for 11 years. His words instantly made the atmosphere a bit awkward. Wei Hongshan frowned almost imperceptibly. Watch your mouth, Zhao. His name was Zhao Chen. His family was in real estate, making him your typical rich kid. He'd been into bikes for a long time. His ride was a modified BMW S1000R. I don't mean anything by it, Wei. I'm just curious. I heard you're just an average office worker, spending 2 years salary on this bike. What's the point? Bikes are a seriously expensive hobby, you know. Passion alone isn't going to cut it. His tone dripped with absolute condescension. The implication was clear. My bank account didn't belong in their exclusive circle. The others stayed quiet, but their eyes gave away a hint of curiosity. I wasn't angry. I looked right at Zhao Chen and said calmly, "You're right. I'm just a normal guy working a regular job. Buying this bike wiped out almost all my savings. But every single penny I spent was earned through my own hard work. I love this machine, just like Dr. Wen loves his scalpel, and Mr. Gao loves his law books. Passion doesn't give a damn about how much money you make." My words were firm and resolute. Wen Jingran and Gao Zhanming both nodded without even realizing it. Zhao Chen looked visibly embarrassed. "Talk is cheap," he scoffed. "As it happens, my S1000RX has been feeling a bit light in the front end when cornering lately. Aren't you supposed to be a tech guru? Why don't you take a look? If you can actually figure out what's wrong with it, I'll admit you're the real deal." Wei Hongshan was about to step in and defuse the situation, but I smiled and held him back. "Sure, show me the bike." Xiao Chen was caught off guard by my quick answer. He froze for a second, then led the way. Everyone else followed right behind, eager to see if I actually knew my stuff. Zhao Chen's S1000RR was parked on a lift. It had an extremely aggressive, track-ready build, full carbon fiber fairings, racing rear sets, and a highly expensive set of AK forged wheels. I didn't touch the bike. I just walked around it, observing every detail. Then, I crouched down and stared at the front wheel and forks for a solid 2 minutes. Is the preload on your front suspension set too stiff? Yeah, I prefer a stiffer setup. Gives me more confidence when carving up mountain roads. When you swapped out the wheels, did you do a precision dynamic balance? The mechanic at the shop handled the balancing when they installed them. It should be fine, right? I smiled and stood up. That's exactly where your problem is. These AK forged rims are almost half the weight of the factory wheels. Your unsprung mass has been drastically reduced, which means your suspension needs a completely new setup. By keeping that high preload, you've ruined the front tire's traction. Any tiny bump in a corner is getting amplified, which is exactly why the front end feels so light and floaty. Plus, for a build of this caliber, a standard wheel balance just doesn't cut it. You need a high-precision laser balancer. The margin of error has to be kept under 1 gram. I'd bet good money that there are at least 15 grams of wheel weight slapped onto that front rim. The moment I finished, the entire garage went completely dead silent. Everyone was staring at me with absolute disbelief, even Wei Hongshan. This level of technical knowledge was way too advanced. It went far beyond what any casual rider would ever know. Zhao Chen swallowed hard, walking over to the front wheel with a look of sheer disbelief. When he saw the side of the tire, lined with a perfectly neat row of balance weights adding up to a full 20 grams, his face instantly turned a deep shade of purple. He opened his mouth, desperately trying to say something, but couldn't get a single word out. Everyone here was a seasoned gearhead. They all knew exactly how unsprung mass, suspension preload, and dynamic balance could make or break a bike's handling. To dissect the problem that thoroughly, just by looking at it. After a long pause, Zhao Chen forced out 2 words through gritted teeth. "You win." He walked right up to me. He still looked pretty embarrassed, but the contempt and the doubt in his eyes were completely gone. Man, I was blind. I totally underestimated you. I'll take the loss on this one. Drinks are on me tonight to make up for it. He owned up to it a lot better than I expected. I just smiled and patted him on the shoulder. Don't sweat it. We're all gearheads here. Just swapping some technical advice, that's all. I didn't rub it in because I knew. For a guy like him, completely crushing the very thing he was most proud of would earn his respect far more than any insult or mockery ever could. Just like that, the little drama blew over, but the impact it left behind was massive. From that moment on, not a single person in this circle would ever look down on me for my background or my day job. I had used my expertise to win everyone's respect. Wei Hongshan strolled over to me, his eyes full of pure admiration. "Jiangqi, you really kept that under wraps, huh? Even I didn't see that coming." "I just like geeking out over the mechanics, that's all." "No, this isn't just geeking out. This is pure talent." He looked right at me, his expression suddenly turning dead serious. "Have you ever thought about taking this passion of yours and turning it into a real career? Wei, what exactly do you mean by that?" "My racing team needs a new technical director." He dropped the bombshell. "I own a semi-pro racing team called Hongyuan Power. We mostly run in domestic track days and national championships. Our previous tech guy was an Italian engineer, but he had to head back home recently for family reasons. I've been hunting for the right replacement. I need someone who not only knows the tech inside out, but also has a deep passion and understanding for motorcycles. After seeing what you did today, I think you're the absolute perfect fit for the job." The offer hit me like a ton of bricks. My mind was completely blown. A technical director for a racing team? That was the ultimate dream job for literally every single motorcycle enthusiast out there. The absolute perfect blend of passion and making a living. But I'm just a project manager. I have absolutely zero professional experience in this field. Experience comes with time. But your raw talent and instinct for mechanics, that's something you just can't teach. I'll pay you 3 times your current annual salary, plus performance bonuses, based on the team's results. All you have to do is handle the bike mods, the tuning and track data analysis. So, what do you say? Are you up for the challenge? Wei Hongshan stared at me with an intense, burning gaze. I could tell right away. He wasn't kidding around. My heart started pounding in my chest. On one hand, there was this stable, decent, and predictable white-collar life. But on the other hand, a brand new track full of passion and challenges, accompanied by my dreams. I hardly hesitated at all. I mean, how many chances do you get in a lifetime to chase after what you truly love? I had already missed out on so much. I wasn't going to let this one slip away. I looked right at Wei Hongshan, nodded firmly, and said, "I'm in." By the time I walked out of the club, it was already evening. The afterglow of the setting sun stretched my shadow out long. I felt like I was floating, like I was walking on clouds. It felt like my life was suddenly opening up in ways I had never even imagined. I drove back to my apartment complex. Just as I finished parking, I spotted a familiar yet strange figure waiting by the entrance of my building. It was Liu Xiao. He looked incredibly haggard. He was wearing a wrinkled shirt. His hair was a complete mess. And his eyes were totally bloodshot. There wasn't a single trace of his old arrogance left. When he saw me, it was like he had found his savior. He rushed over in a panic. "Jiang! Mr. Jiang! Please, have mercy! Let my family off the hook, I'm begging you. We really can't pay back that compensation money anymore. We sold the house, sold the cars, and the company went bankrupt. Now we're drowning in debt to the bank. My mom is sick in bed. And I don't even know if my dad is dead or alive in there," he sobbed, crying his eyes out. He was on the verge of dropping to his knees. I just stood there, looking at him calmly. I felt absolutely nothing. Sympathy? Not a chance. All I felt was pity. Everything you are going through right now isn't because of me. It's the path you and your father chose for yourselves. When you decided to trample over other people's property and dignity, you should have known this day would come. The installment agreement was drafted by a lawyer. It is legally binding. If you can't pay up, the court will enforce it. That is all I have to say. You are on your own now. With that, I ignored him and walked straight through the lobby doors. I could hear Liu Xiao's desperate screams and curses behind me, but I didn't care anymore. We belonged to two completely different worlds now. My world was the boundless sea of stars, the racing track, and the wide open future, while his world was nothing but a deep abyss of consequences, dug by his very own hands. The day I handed my resignation to Mr. Qian, he wasn't surprised in the slightest. He just smiled and brewed me a cup of his prized Dahong Pao tea. I knew a dragon like you would head for the ocean sooner or later. My little pond could never hold you back. We talked for a long time. About cars, about the future, and about our dreams. Right before I left, he patted my shoulder. From now on, you will be the one handling Hongyuan Tech's joint projects with us. Consider it your very first welcome gift as the new technical director. And don't forget, this place will always be your home. I felt a wave of emotion and gave him a deep nod. A truly great leader isn't just a boss. They are a guiding light in your life. With that, I said goodbye to my old 9-to-5 routine. I officially stepped into that world, filled with the scent of engine oil and gasoline. The headquarters of the Hongyuan Power Racing team was even bigger than Wei Hongshan's private club, and way more professional. There was no luxurious decor here, just cold metal and precision instruments. Inside the massive cleanroom workshop parked 3 heavily modified Yamaha R1M race bikes. The cost of each bike could easily rival my Ninja H2R. On one side of the workshop sat the engine and suspension workbenches. On the other side was a storage area stacked high with performance tires and a warehouse for spare parts. The second floor housed the data analysis center. Over a dozen high-performance computers were hooked up to massive screens, flashing all kinds of complex telemetry data curves. This was my new battlefield. The team manager was named Han Lei, a guy in his early 40s with tan skin and a lean build. He wasn't a man of many words, but his eyes were as sharp as an eagle's. He shook my hand and simply said, "Welcome to the team, Director Jiang. The guys here can be a bit eccentric, so please bear with them." I could feel it. His attitude carried a sense of cautious observation. The core team wasn't huge. Aside from manager Han Lei, there was the chief mechanic, Fang Guodong. Everyone just called him Old Fang. He was a master mechanic in his 50s, hands covered in calluses. Word was he'd been tuning bikes in the domestic scene for 30 years. Extremely experienced. When he saw me, he just gave a dismissive grunt. He didn't even look up. In his eyes, a director like me, who talked his way in with fancy PowerPoints, was probably no different from trash. The rest of the crew were 3 young mechanics and 2 data analysts. They were polite, but nothing more. Finally, Han Lei took me to meet the team's ace, the lead rider, Shen Qi. He was a young guy, 23 or 24, and pretty good looking, but he had this wild, arrogant look in his eyes. He had just stepped off the simulator, still wearing his racing suit. "So you're the new director Boss Wei brought in? I heard you used to be a project manager at some tech company. I sure hope your skills are at least half as impressive as your Ninja H2. His tone was clearly meant to provoke me. I didn't get mad. I knew that for this kind of crowd, guys who lived out on the track, talking to speed with their very lives, resumes and fancy titles didn't mean a damn thing. If I wanted to earn their respect, there was only one way to do it. Show them real skill. I completely ignored Shenqi's taunt and just walked straight over to his race bike, the one marked as bike number 1. Manager Han, can you pull up all the telemetry data for bike number 1 from the last race for me? I'm also going to need the photos of the tires after the run. Han Lei froze for a second, then gave a nod. Sure thing. I sat in that data analysis center for 5 solid hours. I broke down every single lap Shenqi ran on the Zhuhai circuit into hundreds of data segments for analysis. Throttle positions, braking force, engine RPMs, suspension compression, and rebound travel. I didn't let a single detail slip by. At 5 p.m., clutching a freshly printed report, I gathered everyone together, including Shenqi, who still looked completely dismissive, and Old Fang, who looked totally impatient. I projected a picture of a tire up on the big screen. This is a picture of the right side of the rear tire from the last race. As you can see, there's some obvious tearing on the edge of the tire, commonly known as cold tearing. Old Fang frowned. That's completely normal. The Zhuhai circuit has a lot of right-hand turns, so the right side naturally takes more wear and tear. Plus, the track temperature was low that day, so the tires couldn't reach their optimal working temperature. His explanation was straight out of a textbook. There was absolutely nothing wrong with it. That's exactly right. But the problem is, why did the cold tearing only appear on the outer right edge? If it was really a temperature issue, the entire right side of the tread would show similar signs. I switched to another slide. It was a telemetry data graph. This is from turn T7 to T8, which is the dynamic data of the rear suspension right at the exit of the hairpin turn. The red line is compression, and the green line is rebound. As you all can see, when hitting the gas hard on the way out of the corner, the suspension gets compressed very quickly, but the rebound speed that follows is clearly way too fast. This causes the rear end to bounce unnecessarily for a split second, making the tire pressure on the track totally unstable. In that fraction of a second, the tire is actually slipping while ripping against the asphalt. And that is exactly why. It leaves such a unique mark on the edge of the tire. After I finished speaking, the entire conference room fell dead silent. Old Fang's impatience turned into pure shock, and the contempt in Shenqi's eyes completely froze. Because what I just said matched exactly how he felt out there on the track. Yamaha. He had always felt that coming out of that corner, the rear end just wouldn't listen to him. But he couldn't explain exactly why. He just thought he was hitting the throttle a bit too hard. He never expected the issue to be with the suspension's rebound damping. I suggest we slow down the rear rebound damping by 2 clicks. This will sacrifice a little bit of the bike's agility, but it'll give us much more stable traction coming out of the corners. At a conservative estimate, this will safely shave at least 0.3 seconds off our lap time. I looked at the absolutely dumbfounded crowd and calmly wrapped up my conclusion. I knew that from this moment on, I had finally secured my place on this racing team. 3 days later, at the Zhuhai International Circuit, the Hongyuan Power Racing Team rented out the entire track for a 1-day private test session. This was my very first, true, practical drill since taking charge, and the only real way to put my theories to the test. In the pit lane, the atmosphere was pretty tense. Old Fang and 2 mechanics were working off the data I provided, making the final tweaks to the number 1 bike. His expression was incredibly focused. His previous disdain was completely gone, replaced by a look of genuine curiosity. Shenqi was sitting on a bench, sipping on a sports drink. He kept glancing over at me. His eyes were full of mixed emotions. There was expectation, a bit of doubt, and a faint trace of excitement that was hard to hide. Because as a racer, there's absolutely nothing more thrilling than the promise of going faster. Director, Jang, how confident are you? Hanlei walked over to me and handed me a bottle of water. I twisted the cap off, took a sip and said, the data doesn't lie. I'm 100% confident. My absolute certainty made Hanlei's eyes flicker for a second. He didn't say anything else, just gave a firm nod. At 10 a.m., the track temperature reached its ideal working state. Shenqi, fully geared up, threw his leg over bike number 1. The roar of the engine echoed through the entire pit lane. Go out and run 3 laps first. Warm up the tires and get a feel for it. Copy that. Shenqi's voice came through the headset. Calm and professional. The Yamaha R1M shot forward like a blue arrow released from its bowstring. It blasted out of the pit lane and onto the track. On the screens in the data center, real-time telemetry data began scrolling. My eyes were absolutely glued to that line. Hongyuan Power, Kirin. Kirin inside, representing the rear suspension dynamics of Hongyuan Power. 0. CP 355.096, 803.549, 116.03, 8.9.39, 02.37, PEP 107.059, 463.853, 29.59.339. The curve for the first lap was 1 minute 37.2 seconds.
Bên Tam Thúc đã ký hợp đồng rồi.
He got into the zone really fast. Yamaha, how does it feel? Not bad at all. The bike feels way more stable than before, especially in the high-speed corners. But in the slow corners, the front end feels a bit sluggish. The steering isn't as sharp as it used to be. Kirin inside. His feedback matched my predictions perfectly. Slowing down the rebound damping would inevitably sacrifice some agility. Don't rush it. Keep pushing. Try to be more aggressive on the brakes and brake later into the corners to make up for that lack of agility. Trust me. And trust the bike. On the very next lap, Shenqi really started to push it. For the first time, the predicted lap time on the screen flashed green. Green meant he was currently beating his own fastest lap. Everyone held their breath. The moment he blasted across the finish line, the timer locked in at 1 minute 35.7 seconds. Compared to his previous personal best lap, he was a full 0.4 seconds faster. A wave of cheers erupted in the pit lane. Master Fang subconsciously clenched his fists too. But Shenqi still didn't seem satisfied. Yamaha, it's still not working. Yamaha, it feels like we've hit the limit. Yamaha, at turn 9. I still don't dare take that high-speed corner at full throttle. Yamaha. Yamaha, the rear end constantly feels like it's about to slip out of control. He was talking about the corner on the Zhuhai circuit that truly tests a rider's guts. The corner that challenges the bike setup the most. A high-speed right-hander, taken at over 200 kilometers per hour. 1.579. 7.625. I stared at the data on the screen, lost in thought. 10,965. 1.525. 40.30. 7.625. The suspension setup should be perfectly fine now. 10.9. E5. So where exactly was the problem? 16.5. 1. P9. I shifted my gaze away from the suspension data.
Lumingon si Wang Jingza at naglakad palapit kay Xiao Kao. Bigla na lang niyang hinawakan ang kamay ng dalaga.
16.5. 1. P9. 19.5. 213 meters. 0.15 meters. 0.50. Wheelbase. 18 meters. 23 meters. 2.5 meters. 17 meters. A bold idea formed in my mind. I immediately gave the order, Shen-Chi, bring it back to the pit lane. The bike rolled back into the pit box, and Shen-Chi pulled off his helmet. His face was full of confusion. What's going on? I completely ignored him and turned straight to Master Fang. Master Fang, loosen the triple clamps on the front forks. Drop the front forks down by 5 millimeters. My words made everyone in the room freeze in their tracks. Master Fang's eyes nearly popped out of his head. Inside Kirin. Director Jiang! Inside Kirin. Are you out of your mind? Inside Kirin. Dropping the front forks means decreasing the rake angle. Inside Kirin. It shortens the trail. Inside Kirin. Sure, the bike will get more agile, but it's just going to be way more unstable in the high-speed corners. Inside Kirin. You are tuning it completely backwards. His protests voiced exactly what everyone else was thinking. This went completely against every rule in the book for motorcycle tuning. Shen-Chi got anxious too. Yeah, Chief Jiang, if you tweak it like this, I definitely won't dare to push through turn T9. I looked at them and shook my head. No, you guys only considered the rake angle and the trail, but completely ignored another crucial factor, the center of gravity. To achieve extreme weight reduction, we've installed a ton of carbon fiber parts on this 21M. Its center of gravity is already higher than a stock bike. And Shen-Chi, your riding style, leans heavily towards extreme side hanging. This means that in high-speed corners, the combined center of gravity for both you and the bike has completely crossed the breaking point, so no matter how we tune the suspension, it's always going to feel unstable to you. What I'm doing right now is dropping the ride height at the front. To bring the whole bike's center of gravity down, by making the center of gravity more stable, we can completely cancel out the instability caused by the geometry changes. I know it's a huge risk, but it's worth a shot. My crazy theory sounded like pure, absolute fiction. Old Fang and Shen-Chi were just staring at me, totally dumbfounded. The pit lane fell back into a dead, heavy silence. Everyone was staring at me, like I was an absolute madman. Finally, Han Lei broke the silence. He glanced over at Shen-Chi, then looked back at me. Listen to Chief Jiang. His words sealed the deal. Old Fang, despite being full of doubts, still picked up his tools. Half an hour later, the adjustments were completely done. Shen-Chi, feeling incredibly anxious, rolled out onto the track once again. This time, everyone gathered behind the track's crash barrier, nervously watching turn T9 in the distance. We could hear the roar of the engine closing in, without backing off even a little bit. That blue R1M looked like a bolt of lightning flying right over the track, carving through the apex of turn T9 with unbelievable stability. Full throttle! He actually took it at full throttle. The very next second, through my headset, I heard Shen-Chi's voice, roaring with absolute, voice-cracking excitement. I did it! Oh my god, it's so incredibly stable. This bike feels like it's literally glued to the track. The entire pit lane erupted into thunderous cheers and applause. The data center immediately radioed in. Latest lap time, 1 minute, 34.9 seconds. We finally broke into the 34-second mark. Old Fang completely tossed his stopwatch aside and wrapped me in a massive, excited bear hug. Chief Jiang, you are an absolute genius. The massive success of the Zhuhai test completely cemented my position in the team. I had established unmatched authority. From that day on, absolutely no one questioned my decisions. Old Fang became my most loyal right-hand man. If I told him to go east, he wouldn't even look west. Shen-Chi literally worshipped the ground I walked on. He acted friendlier to me than anyone else. The whole team's morale and vibe had never been this high and united. Everyone was feeling incredibly pumped for the upcoming National Superbike Championship. We were completely overflowing with confidence. Right after returning to the team base, I immediately called for an all-hands meeting. And during that meeting, I officially pitched my vision for a fully data-driven team management system. I took all the experience I had, working as a project manager at a tech company, and directly applied it to managing the racing team. We started treating every single practice run and every single race as an entirely independent project. Before the race, we'll run detailed data simulations and map out our strategy based on the track's characteristics. During the race, I'll be stationed at the back, analyzing the data in real time and providing precise commands to the drivers. After the race, we'll also conduct a comprehensive review, funneling all that data and experience straight into our knowledge base. Then the mechanics team will pinpoint the issues while I analyze the data to ultimately find the perfect solution. This brand new working model has been a breath of fresh air for everyone on the team. Even though the process is much more tedious than before, our efficiency and precision have skyrocketed exponentially. The entire Hongyuan Dynamics team is running like a reprogrammed precision machine, operating at high speed and in perfect order. Wei Hongshan came down to the base for an inspection once, and seeing the team's completely transformed look and the fire in everyone's eyes, he couldn't stop praising me. Jiang Yi, I knew I picked the right guy. You've brought this team more than just technical skills. You've given us a whole new soul. I am absolutely determined to take the championship this year. His ambition completely ignited my fighting spirit. The championship is the ultimate glory for anyone who dedicates their life to motorsport. However, while Hongyuan Dynamics was gearing up and intensely preparing for battle, some pretty bad news started circulating in the circuit. Our old rivals, Team Tianlu, also held a secret test session in Zhuhai, and their ace driver, Jiang Ming, clocked an absolutely staggering time, 1 minute, 34.5 seconds. That lap time is a full 0.4 seconds faster than the best lap time Shen Qi managed during our tests. 0.4 seconds might sound tiny, but in the racing world, it is a massive gap. When the news broke, the newly sparked optimism inside the team was instantly crushed, like a bucket of cold water was dumped on us. Shen Qi's face, in particular, turned incredibly grim. Jiang Ming has been his fiercest rival ever since their go-karting days. They've always been neck and neck, neither ever willing to concede to the other. But now, the guy just pulled off a time that completely leaves him in the dust. It was a massive blow to him. No way. How the hell could he be that fast? Shen Qi muttered to himself, eyes glued to the news on his phone. They're driving the exact same R1M as us, and our tuning specs are practically identical. Even if their mechanics are top tier, there is no way they could magically pull a 0.4 second advantage out of thin air. Old Feng frowned too. Team Tianlu's technical director is a Japanese guy, named Kenji Sato. He's pretty famous in the circuit. He's incredibly experienced, but his style leans way more toward the conservative side. Pulling off a lap time like this really doesn't seem like his work. I flipped open my laptop and pulled up all of Team Tianlu's race footage from the previous season, along with their public data. I went through Jiang Ming's racing footage frame by frame, analyzing his racing lines and driving style over and over again. For an entire afternoon, I locked myself inside the data center. It wasn't until dusk that I finally found the crucial piece of the puzzle. I called everyone back together and threw 2 video clips up on the big screen. On the left is Shen Qi going full throttle through turn 9. On the right is Jiang Ming taking the exact same corner. Look closely, what's the difference? Everyone stared intently at the screen. His racing line seems a bit different. Jiang Ming's entry point, it's later than mine. And further out. Exactly. But that's not the main point. The real key is the exit. Look, I'm freezing the frame. Right at the exact moment both bikes exit the corner. Just look at their body postures. When Shen Qi's bike exits the corner, the body is relatively upright. But Jiang Ming's bike? It's still holding a massive lean angle. He's using a cornering style with an extreme lean, almost like a MotoGP rider, just to take this high-speed corner. This kind of riding style lets him carry way more speed through the apex, giving him a massive advantage on the exit. My analysis made it all click for everyone, but Shen Qi's face just looked even worse. I've tried riding like that too, but it's literally impossible. As soon as the speed picks up, and the lean gets too deep, the rear end just starts sliding out. You can't control it at all. This isn't just an issue with the bike's tuning anymore. This is the absolute physical limit. Yes, under normal circumstances, it is the physical limit. But what if this bike is equipped with some kind of crazy tech we don't know about? I switched to another picture. It was a high-definition photo, captured from a news report in May 2023. Wait, it was a high-definition photo grabbed from a news report covering the bike market in July. May 2023, Sianda. In the photo, Jiang Ming's race bike was parked in the pit lane during the July bike selection and market run. Right on the side of the bike's body, there was this tiny, unnoticeable silver box. I drew a red circle right around it. What is this? Old Fang leaned in to take a look. I dug into this for a long time. This thing is the 6th generation of a newly developed traction control system made by an Italian company called Macronic. It has a built-in 6-axis gyroscope and a GPS module. It can read the bike's real-time lean angle, its acceleration, and its exact position on the track to smartly adjust the engine's power output. Simply put, it allows the rider to push right to the absolute edge of losing control and aggressively test those limits. And this is the secret behind Jiang Ming's 0.4 seconds. Hongyuan power. As soon as the words left my mouth, the whole room went wild. Hongyuan power. Everyone was in an absolute uproar. Shen Qi's eyes instantly lit up. Brother Jiang, then can we? I raised my hand and cut him off. I've already contacted this company, but they've signed an exclusive supply agreement with the Tianlu racing team. For this season in the China division, this system is only being supplied to them. That news hit everyone like a ton of bricks, slamming our morale right back down to rock bottom. This means we are at an absolute disadvantage when it comes to the tech. Total despair was written all over their faces. I looked at the completely defeated team, but suddenly I smiled. Power. Inside. Who says we can't build it ourselves? I spun around and wrote a line on the whiteboard behind me. Hongyuan Power TCU, Independent R&D Project, is officially a go. My words, build it ourselves, dropped like an absolute bomb in that quiet meeting room. Everyone just stared at me like I was a total lunatic. Old Fang was the first to snap out of it. He practically jumped out of his seat. Director Jiang, you've got to be kidding me, right? That is not something you can just fix with a wrench and a screwdriver. That is an ECU. It's electronics. It's programming. It's algorithms. Any random chip or single line of code in there is way more complex than our entire team's technical knowledge. What are we supposed to build it with? Run it on hopes and dreams? His outburst spoke for everyone. Yeah. What are we supposed to build it with? We're a bunch of gearheads, not semiconductor engineers. This seemed like a totally impossible mission. Shenqi also looked at me, completely worried. Brother Zhang, isn't this a bit too reckless? I know you don't want to lose, but we can't fight a battle we have absolutely no hope of winning. I raised my hand, signaling everyone to quiet down. I know it's hard, it even sounds completely insane. But just because it's hard doesn't mean we surrender. Just because it's insane doesn't mean we can't pull it off. I walked over to the whiteboard and grabbed a marker. A top-tier TCU comes down to just 3 parts. First, the hardware. I drew a box. High-performance microcontrollers, 6-axis gyroscopes, GPS modules, wheel speed sensors. None of this is alien technology. We might not be able to manufacture them ourselves, but we can hit the global market and source the absolute best models available. This part is just a matter of money and supply chain. Mr. Wei will back us up. Second, the software. I drew a second box. We need to take the data collected by the hardware and feed it in real time to our core algorithm through software. This takes top-tier embedded systems programming. Talent for that is hard to find, but not impossible to get. Third, and the most crucial part, the algorithm. I drew a third, much larger box. How do we take lean angle, acceleration, wheel speed differentials, all these cold, hard numbers, and translate them into the most precise engine power control commands? This requires the absolute best. Experts who master vehicle dynamics and control theory. These 3 blocks are the fortresses we need to conquer. I looked at everyone and said, word by word, Kenji Sato can buy the Mectronic, but we can't buy it. It's not fair, but this world has never been fair. Instead of complaining about the rules, why don't we become the ones who make them? My words were like a fire, igniting the almost extinguished hope in the conference room. The despair on everyone's faces was gradually replaced by a complex emotion. There was doubt, there was hesitation, but more than anything, it was a do-or-die madness of being pushed to the absolute brink. Wei Hongshan made the call right then and there. I'll give you an initial budget of 20 million. Find whoever you need. When it comes to money, you have my unlimited support. I only have one condition before the season starts. I want to see our Heart of Quillen installed on the race car. Heart of Quillen was the name we gave this project. Named after the auspicious beast from Chinese mythology, it represents speed, wisdom, and good fortune. Right in the face of Western technological barriers, we were going to install a Chinese heart of our very own. In the days that followed, I practically lived at the team's garage. I used every bit of my past experience as a project manager and broke the entire R&D project down. We broke it down into hundreds of detailed task nodes. I can do it! And every single node had a clear person in charge. With strict timelines and delivery standards, the entire racing team started operating at an unprecedented, high intensity. Wei Hongshan used absolutely all of his connections to scout for talent for us on a global scale. Very quickly, 2 young engineers who had worked in Silicon Valley for many years and knew embedded development like the back of their hands were poached by us with a massive paycheck. The hardware and software issues were finally settled, but we still couldn't find the most crucial piece, the algorithm expert. We interviewed so many people. There were university professors and researchers from scientific institutes, but they were either too theoretical and out of touch with reality, or they had absolutely zero interest in motorsports. Days turned into weeks. The project was completely stuck at its very core. Just when I was at my wits' end, my former boss, Mr. Chin, gave me a call. Jiang Yi. I heard you've been looking for a top-tier algorithm guru lately. Yeah, Mr. Chen. Do you have any recommendations? I actually do have a candidate in mind. I'm just not sure if you can convince him. He's a prodigy who graduated from Jiaotong University's gifted youth class, then went to MIT to get his PhD in robotics and automatic control. Right now, he's the chief scientist at one of the country's top autonomous driving companies. His name is Ji Yu Yan. But I have to warn you, the guy has a very weird temper. He couldn't care less about anything, except for technology. Getting him to join you is going to be tough. I jotted down the name. I knew right then, he was our final puzzle piece. I spent 3 whole days studying every single paper Ji Yu Yan had ever published, and all the projects he had led. I didn't go through Mr. Chin to contact him. Instead, I went straight to his company's building. I sat in the cafe downstairs, and waited for him for an entire afternoon. Around dusk, a young man wearing black-framed glasses and a plaid shirt, looking a bit scruffy and unkempt, walked out of the building. I walked right up to him. "Dr. Ji-yu?" He glanced at me, his eyes full of suspicion. "Are you from Kirin?" "My name is Jiang Yi, technical director of the Hongyuan Power Racing team." He frowned, turned around, and started to walk away. "I have zero interest in racing, but you definitely have an interest in multi-sensor fusion in dynamic environments, Kirin, and predictive control algorithms. Kirin, you are definitely interested in that." That single sentence made him stop dead in his tracks. He turned back around, a glimmer of light flashing behind his lenses for the very first time. "Oh?" When a motorcycle traveling at 300 kilometers per hour leans into a corner at a 60-degree angle, what's happening between its tires and the ground is the most complex and most fascinating physical reaction in the world. How to use the posture changes captured by the gyroscope. That combined with the track curvature predicted by GPS to anticipate the critical point of traction 0.01 seconds later. That process, compared to what you're working on right now, making a four-wheeled iron box drive normally through a congested city, requires so much more agility, doesn't it? My words were like a key, unlocking his deepest hidden desire for the ultimate pursuit of technology. Deep inside, Ji Yan looked at me. Keeping it inside, he stayed silent for a long time. "Interesting. Take me to see your racing team tomorrow." Ji Yan's arrival was like a shot of adrenaline. Like a bolt from the blue, it injected new life right into the entire Heart of Kirin project. On his very first day at the base, he didn't say a single word to anyone. Instead, he locked himself straight inside the data center for 48 solid hours. 2 days later, with completely bloodshot eyes and holding a thick stack of scratch paper covered in complex formulas, he finally walked out. It's theoretically possible, but we're going to need to build a completely new mathematical model, one that can perfectly sync the rider and the machine together. A non-linear recognition control model. Hardly any of us actually understood what he meant, but that didn't stop every single one of us from feeling an unbelievable surge of excitement. The project officially entered its toughest phase. Ji Yan and 2 of our software engineers took charge of building the algorithms and software, while Old Fang and I led the technicians, focusing entirely on hardware integration and testing. It was an absolute race against the clock. The whole process was way harder than anyone imagined. The 6-axis gyroscopes we imported from Germany and the microcontrollers from the United States, they were completely incompatible at the base protocol level. 2 young engineers pulled 3 all-nighters in a row just to scrape together a working bridge program. The high-frequency electromagnetic interference from the engine's ignition coil was totally messing up the GPS signal accuracy. Relying on his years of experience, Old Fang took some aerospace-grade shielding material and wrapped our TCU module in it, layer by layer. That was the only way we finally fixed the issue. But the biggest headache still came from the algorithm itself. The initial model Ji Yan built worked flawlessly on the test bench, but the second we loaded it onto an actual bike, it was a completely different story. The very first time Shen-Chi took the test bike out, equipped with the Kirin Heart prototype onto the track, it nearly bucked him right off. "What kind of traction control system is this?" "It's basically just a randomized ABS. It always kicks in right when I don't need it, and completely vanishes when I actually do." He furiously slammed his helmet onto the ground. Ji Yan's face looked absolutely terrible too. He just sat there staring at a screen full of error codes, without saying a single word. It was the genius's very first time hitting a brick wall. The perfect model from the lab was facing a real-world racetrack, full of pure chaos and totally unpredictable variables. And it shattered completely. For the first time, the team's morale dropped right down to absolute zero. For over half a month straight, everyone had been running on just 3 or 4 hours of sleep a night. The intense pressure left everyone physically and mentally drained. Some guys even started complaining behind closed doors, saying my initial decision was way too reckless. Even Han Lei pulled me aside for a private chat. "Director Jiang, I know you're under a ton of pressure right now, but the season is starting incredibly soon. Shouldn't we get a backup plan ready for the Kirin system?" I knew perfectly well that his so-called backup plan meant completely giving up on the Kirin Heart and going right back to our clunky, outdated previous generation system. And that meant that every single bit of our hard work over the past few weeks would be completely washed down the drain. It also meant that we were throwing our hands up and surrendering before the season even started. "Just give me 3 more days." I looked Han Lei straight in the eye with total determination. "If in 3 days we still can't deliver a working version, I'll take full responsibility and step down." I had made my final stand. After that, I kicked absolutely everyone out of the data center, leaving only me and Ji Yan inside. For one entire night, neither of us said a word. We just sat there, constantly rewatching and analyzing the footage and data of every single mistake from the tests. Where the hell was the problem? The model wasn't wrong, and the code wasn't wrong either. The hardware signal acquisition is totally normal too. Why? Why won't it just listen? Looking at him on the verge of a breakdown, I suddenly remembered something. I opened up a video clip, my own first-person POV riding footage. It was a video of me riding my Ninja H2 carving through a mountain road. Ji-Yu Yan. Look at this move I make right before entering the corner. While I am braking, my body is already hanging off towards the apex ahead of time. At this moment, the bike is still totally upright inside KDWADX, but my center of gravity has already shifted. But your model, it only triggers when the gyroscope detects the bike leaning. That is when it starts calculating the lean parameters. You completely ignored the most crucial variable, and that is the rider. Your model is just a purely mechanical system. You are treating the rider like some fixed dead weight, strapped to the bike. But in reality, a top-tier rider, his body, his center of gravity side, is actually the most critical link inside KOWADX in the entire vehicle control system. Inside KOWADX, he will use his own body to anticipate. Inside KDWADX, to guide RE. Inside KOWADX, to fight against the vehicle's dynamics. My words hit like a bolt of lightning, slicing right through the fog in Ji-Yu Yan's head. His eyes instantly lit up. Predictive control. I need to add a predictive control module based on rider behavior. By using the pressure sensors under the seat and the angular displacement sensors on the handlebars. Even before the bike starts to lean, the system has to start predicting his next move and adjust the power output strategy ahead of time. This is a human-machine collaborative control model. He shot up from his seat and rushed over to the whiteboard, frantically scribbling down new formulas. I watched his feverish back, knowing we had finally found the key to unlock our success. 3 days later, when Shen-Chi rolled back into the pits on the test bike, he did not say a word. He just walked up to Ji-Yu Yan in silence, pulled off his helmet, and gave him a deep, respectful bow. Dr. Ji-Yu, thank you. You have created an absolute beast that actually thinks. A day in April. April 20th, Zhuhai International Circuit. Our Quill and Heart TCU had finally completed its final tuning phase. We packed it inside a sleek carbon fiber box, making it look exactly like a stock factory part. To keep it top secret, we slapped on a label calling it a standard data logger. Aside from our core team, nobody else knew that inside this little black box lay a terrifying power, strong enough to completely flip the entire race. The night before, we headed out to Shanghai. Wei Hongshan personally came down to the base to see us off. He did not give some grand, impassioned speech. He simply raised his glass and gave every single one of us a deep bow. Thank you all. No matter what the final result is, you are all the true heroes of Hongyuan power. Friday, Shanghai International Circuit. Overcast. The air was thick with the nerve-wracking tension of an impending war. The whole pit lane was roaring with voices. All the race bikes and equipment from every team were already prepped and ready to go. Team Tianlu's pit garage was right diagonally across from ours. They had an incredibly intimidating presence. Their race mechanics, their logistics crew, they were all putting on the airs of a championship team. Their ace rider, Zhang Ning, was surrounded by a swarm of reporters for interviews, wearing a confident smile on his face. Their Japanese director, Kenji Sato, stood at the entrance of the pit garage with his arms crossed. He stared coldly in our direction, his eyes full of disdain and contempt. In contrast, our team, Hongyuan Dynamics, kept a much lower profile. We didn't take any interviews, just quietly went about our own prep work. As far as everyone was concerned, we were just there to make up the numbers. A team of losers, destined to be nothing more than background decoration for Team Tianlu's victory. When the first free practice session started in the morning, I had Shen-Chi use the most conservative Mode 1. NCICH. Under this mode, 60, Shen-Chi, ride height, heat parameters, 0, 2000, 2500, 2500, 2500, 2500. Under this mode, not men, say in accord art, 60, QP/ride height, 0, 2000, 2500, 2500, 2500. The intervention of the Quillen core is very slight. Pnotmansane accord art. 60, QP/4, Shen-Chi, ride height, heat parameters, 0, 2000, 2500. It's almost no different from our previous generation system. Not Mens Enak Tart. I didn't want to show our hand this early. The lap time Shen-Chi posted ranked 5th among all the riders. Not great, but not terrible either. Meanwhile, Jiang Ming, to no one's surprise, set the fastest lap of the session, 1 minute, 59.3 seconds. That time sent a shockwave through the entire circuit. A cheer erupted from Team Tianlu's pit garage, and a smug smirk appeared on Kenji Sato's face. He even made a point to shoot a provocative glare in our direction. Dead silence filled our pit garage. Old Fang looked grim. His fists were clenched so tight they cracked. Only Ji-Yu Yan and I exchanged a glance. Our expressions remained calm. The real show was just about to begin. During the second free practice session in the afternoon, the track temperature, wind speed, and humidity all reached a near perfect state. Before swinging his leg over the bike, Shenqi looked at me. Brother Jiang, are we still sticking with Mode 1? I shook my head. Hongyuan Dynamics. I picked up the walkie-talkie. Hongyuan Dynamics. I pressed the talk button. Hongyuan Dynamics. Everyone, listen up. Hongyuan Dynamics. Switch the Quilin system to Mode 3. Codename Awakening. Mode 3 was our most aggressive, most insane setup. It would unleash the engine's power to the absolute limit, handing complete control of the bike over to the synergy between the system and the rider. A fire instantly lit up in Shenqi's eyes. Copy that. The blue Yamaha R1M blasted out onto the track once again. This time, its stance was completely different from the morning. Like a wild beast finally off its leash, with an unprecedented, ferocious, yet flawlessly precise aggression, it lunged into the first corner. Inside the data center, Ji Yuyan's hands flew across the keyboard. Moving so fast they were practically a blur. 072.99. 257.091. He was monitoring every single system parameter in real time. 2.10.599. Ready to handle any sudden emergencies. T6. Plus T1.99. T1.54. My eyes, meanwhile, were dead fixed on the live monitor. 9. T1000. T6. Plus T1.99. T1.20. Sector 1, purple. Plus T1.09. T1050. T6. Plus T1.99. T1.36. Purple. Purple means the fastest overall. 1.09. Everyone in the pit lane watching the monitors, IHPS, noticed this jaw-dropping scene. IHPS. Every single eye, IHPS, was locked onto that blue number 46 bike. Has Hongyuan Dynamics gone insane? Who is number 46? What kind of drugs is Shenqi on? The murmurs rippled through the crowd, one after another. Inside Team Tianlu's pit garage, the smug smile froze on Kenji Sato's face. He snatched the binoculars straight from the mechanic next to him, glaring fiercely at the track. Jiang Ning also stopped joking with the reporters, staring up at the big screen with a heavy, serious look. The final corner sprint. As Shenqi piloted his racing bike, crossing the finish line like a bolt of lightning, time seemed to stand completely still. That bright red number on the timing screen pierced everyone's eyes. 1 minute, 58.8 seconds. A new track record. The entire pit lane fell dead silent. Then, Hongyuan Power erupted into earth-shattering cheers and gasps. Back in our Hongyuan Power pit garage, everyone was hugging each other like crazy, jumping up and down. Even Lao Fang, a tough guy in his 50s, actually had tears welling up in his eyes. Out on the track, Shenqi pulled off a massive wheelie in a victory salute. The roar of the engine was his victory cry. But right in the middle of our celebration, Kenji Sato marched up to our pit garage with 2 mechanics, his face pale with rage. He glared right at me, like a provoked beast. What the hell did you do? I just looked back at him, with a calm smile on my face. I pointed at the race machine, at that little, inconspicuous black box. Mr. Sato, allow me to introduce you. This is our in-house developed traction control unit. We call it Kirin. Kenji Sato's face turned uglier than the gloomy Shanghai sky. He stared daggers at me, like a cornered animal. Ha! In-house developed? As if a pathetic ragtag crew like yours could actually develop anything. You've got to be kidding me. You definitely stole our data, or used some kind of illegal cheat. He was screaming now, completely losing his usual cool demeanor, facing his wild accusations. I just chuckled. Mr. Sato, if you lose, just accept it. Making excuses only makes you look pathetic. And as for whether we're a ragtag crew, the main race this weekend will give you your answer. With that, I ignored him and turned back into our pit garage, leaving him screaming furiously behind me. For the entire afternoon, the Tianlu team's garage was totally suffocated by a heavy, depressing atmosphere. They called several emergency meetings. I bet they were frantically analyzing our race footage, trying to uncover the secret to our speed, but they were doomed to be disappointed. The true power of Kirin isn't about the racing line in any specific corner. It's the absolute confidence it gives the racer to push past their limits. It's an unspoken magic, something they could never, ever replicate. The weekend raced it. The weather was perfect, with the sun shining brightly. The 5 red lights above the track lit up one by one. Everyone's heart was in their throat. The red lights went out, and the race began. Shenqi had an absolutely perfect start, thanks to the Kirin system's precise launch control. He shot out like a cannonball, diving straight into turn 1 in first place. Jiang Ming was hot on his tail. Right from the very start, the 2 bikes locked into an intense, fierce dogfight. The entire track became a stage just for the 2 of them. They quickly left all the other racers in the dust, trading overtakes back and forth. Every single attack and defense was heart-stopping. Sparks literally flew every time they went side by side. Jiang Ming definitely proved why he's a top-tier domestic racer. Boosted by the macro-nick system, his speed was absolutely suffocating. Several times, he used his system's corner exit advantage to pass Shen Qi. But Shen Qi could always rely on the Kirin system, using its superior stability during braking and at the apex to aggressively snatch his position right back. Both of their lap times were holding steady under 1 minute and 59 seconds. So incredibly fast that it left every single commentator completely speechless. The race had reached a fever pitch. Sato Kenji was nervously pacing back and forth in the pit garage. His eyes were locked dead onto the gap shown on the screen. 28 ALIKCNN plus 1.753, 1.605, 0.085, 1.695. It was a nearly negligible 0.1 seconds. 717. Team Tianwen. He just couldn't wrap his head around it. Why? Why was their opponent's system performance not losing out to macro-nick in the slightest? In fact, in some areas, it was actually outperforming them. This made zero sense. It went completely against everything he had learned in his decades working in the industry. Meanwhile, I was sitting calmly in the data center. Right in front of me was Ji Yu Yan. His fingers were practically flying across the keyboard. Enter, Brother Jing. Shen Qi's heart rate is getting a bit high. GONS. It's already hit 165. GONS. Tell him to calm down. He needs to slow his pace down just a little bit. Jiang Ming's rear tires are already starting to degrade. His real chance will be in the final 3 laps. Inside, I grab the walkie-talkie. Inside, Shen Qi. This is Hongyuan Power. Inside. Do you copy? Hongyuan Power. I copy. Brother Jiang, don't force a head-to-head fight with him. Just shadow him. Keep your pace controlled at around 1 minute and 59.5 seconds. Let him take the lead for now. Then, in the final 3 laps, wait for my command to switch to mode 4. Copy that. Back on the track. Shen Qi did exactly that, slowing his pace by just a few tenths of a second. Jiang Ming instantly seized the opportunity and overtook him. He immediately started trying to widen the gap. A huge wave of cheers erupted inside Team Tianlu's pit garage. A smug smile crept back onto Sato Kenji's face. Ha! They're far too young and impatient after all. Shen Qi's tires must have hit their absolute limit too. Jiang Ming, keep it steady. Just maintain this pace. He fully believed the scales of victory were already tipping in their favor. Kanzni in. But little did he know, this was the exact deadly trap I had laid out just for them. By the third to last lap, Jiang Ming's lead had shrunk to a mere 0.5 seconds. That is an incredibly dangerous gap. His rear tires. Even under the high-definition cameras, you could clearly see severe graining on them. Meanwhile, the condition of Shen Qi's racing tires had been preserved perfectly. The time has come. Shen Qi, Quillen Mode 4. Codename Hunt. Go out there and completely destroy him for me. Copy that. Shen Qi's voice was trembling, suppressing an endless amount of excitement and pure battle lust. The mode number on the racing dashboard snapped from 3 directly to 4. And in that exact split second, he felt the entire race car completely transform. The roar of the engine shrieked into an even higher, deafening pitch. The throttle response became absolutely, violently aggressive. The whole car felt exactly like an ancient, savage beast that had just been fully awakened, baring its most terrifying, savage fangs. Heading into the final corner. The most famous corner on the Shanghai circuit, and the ultimate test of a driver's raw nerve, the ultra-long, high-speed right curve. Jiang Ming had already started lifting off the throttle, setting up to enter the massive straightaway. But Shen Qi? He didn't let up at all. Not only did he refuse to lift off the throttle, he actually completely buried the accelerator, moving in a way that absolutely nobody could even begin to comprehend. He took a completely suicidal line and viciously cut inside from the outer edge. He's lost his damn mind. Sato Kenji's eyes bulged out in sheer horror. That's impossible. At that kind of speed, at that lean angle, he's going to get himself killed. But then, a total miracle happened. In that exact 0.01 second before the car was about to skid completely out of control, the Quillen system stepped in with absolute precision, calculating thousands of times a second. Like a giant, invisible hand, it firmly caught the bike just as it was about to wipe out. Every ounce of power was instantly converted into pure, raw, forward speed. With the whole world watching, that blue Yamaha R1M defied all known laws of physics, hugging the absolute outer edge of the track. It blasted past that red and white Tianlu bike, exiting the corner side by side to make the pass. By the time Shen Qi rocketed onto the main straight with a full bike's length lead, the entire world absolutely lost its mind. The moment that checkered flag waved, the Hongyuan Dynamics pit garage exploded into a massive wave of pure joy. We didn't just win. We did it in the most unbelievable, most breathtaking way possible. The second Shenqi crossed that finish line, he punched the air in absolute triumph, and our team's name, along with the mysterious Quilin system, became an absolute legend, spreading like wildfire through the entire Chinese racing world. Meanwhile, the Tianlu pit garage was dead silent. Jiang Ming dragged himself back to the pit lane, completely crushed without saying a single word. This race didn't just beat him, it completely shattered his pride. And Kenji Sato? He was standing in front of the monitors like a stone statue, just staring blankly, muttering over and over, "This is impossible." Decades of his racing knowledge had just been violently torn down by us today, in the most brutal way imaginable. Later, at the awards ceremony, at the Shanghai International Circuit, Shenqi stood proud on the top step of the podium, a gold medal around his neck. With the crowd chanting for Hongyuan Dynamics, he held up the champagne, grinning like a kid. When he sprayed that champagne all over our team, the pure joy of winning infected every single one of us. The post-race press conference basically turned into our own solo show. The reporters were going absolutely crazy, shoving their mics and cameras right in my face. "Director Jiang, tell us, what exactly is this Quilin system? How did you manage to develop such a powerful piece of tech in such a short amount of time? Rumor has it that your technology has already surpassed the top European manufacturers. Is that true?" Facing the blinding flashes of 1,000 cameras, I just kept a calm smile. The Quilin system is the masterpiece of 100% independent research and development by Hongyuan Dynamics. It's more than just technology. It represents the spirit of us Chinese racers, never backing down from a challenge, always daring to push the limits, and having the courage to innovate. And as for whether we've surpassed Europe, well, I think today's race speaks for itself. My voice rang out clear and strong, full of absolute confidence. By the very next day, almost every single headline related to automotive tech across the media was completely taken over by us. Homegrown black tech Quilin rocks the world, propels Hongyuan Dynamics to championship glory. China's new power, a groundbreaking technological revolution. From underdogs to tech kings, the shocking comeback of Hongyuan Dynamics. Everyone was talking about our story. Bossway's phone was practically blowing up, calls pouring in with congratulations, people begging to collaborate. There were even several top-tier investment firms, literally waving blank checks at us, desperate to buy a stake in our project. Bossway was grinning from ear to ear on the phone. "Jiang Yi, you son of a gun. You really are my lucky charm." We really outdid ourselves this time. Right as we were making a name for ourselves, an emergency executive meeting was called at the headquarters of Machi 1 in Italy. They only had one thing on the agenda: that mysterious system from China, Quilin. Rumor has it that right after watching the footage of our race, their CEO smashed his favorite coffee mug to pieces. A week later, an official email from Italy landed in my inbox. The message was simple. The CEO and Chief Technology Officer of Macronica, Mr. Antonio, was hoping to find a convenient time to personally lead a delegation to our headquarters for a friendly technical exchange. I just laughed at the humble tone of the email. I knew damn well they weren't coming for an exchange. They were coming on a pilgrimage. Or rather, they were coming to beg for mercy. The Western monopoly on technology was shattered by our own hands that day. Meanwhile, in another corner of the city, someone I had almost completely forgotten about happened to see the news about me. Liu Shao. He was sitting in some loud, rundown internet cafe when my face popped up on his screen. In the photo, I was sharply dressed in a tailored suit, looking on top of the world, speaking confidently at the press conference. As for him, he was unshaven, reeking of cheap cigarettes, with only 20 yuan left to his name. His life had completely spiraled into the abyss over the last few months. His father was in prison, his mother was severely ill, and his company had gone bankrupt. With creditors banging down his door, he went from being the golden boy to a rat scurrying in the gutters. He had pawned off absolutely everything he owned just to barely scrape together my settlement money. But his life was completely ruined. He had fantasized countless times about getting back at me, about destroying my reputation. But the moment he saw the news and realized the heights I had reached, heights he couldn't even fathom, all his bitter resentment melted into endless dread and despair. It finally hit him. I never even saw him as a rival. We were living in two completely different worlds. He slumped back in his chair, staring blankly at my face on the screen, with dead, hollow eyes. That very night, he was found wandering along the Huangpu River. On suspicion of fraud and illegal fundraising, he was hauled away by the police. Another brutal trial awaited him. Mr. Qin was the one who broke the news to me. I just gave a calm "oh" when I heard it. I didn't feel a damn thing, because my eyes were already fixed on a much bigger prize. Out there, waiting for me, was a vast new world and far deadlier rivals. The era of Quilin had only just begun. 2 years later, the Spa-Francorchamps circuit in Belgium, the World Endurance Championship was fully underway. The deafening roar of engines echoed through the deep forests of the Ardennes. I was standing on the viewing deck above the pit garage, rocking the team uniform with the Kirin inside logo. I was no longer just the technical director for Hongyuan Power Racing. I was now the CEO of Hongyuan Quilin Tech. That glorious victory 2 years ago completely flipped the script for all of us. With Wei Hongshan's full backing, we officially spun off the R&D division from the racing team and built the company we have today. Our main focus is developing electronic control systems for A09 high-performance vehicles. After 2 years of relentless upgrades, the Quilin system, it has evolved to the 4th generation. Its performance has completely surpassed Mechatronic. It has evolved to the 4th generation. Its performance has completely surpassed Mechatronic. Today, in major top-tier motorcycle and auto racing events around the world, from MotoGP to WEC, from the 24 Hours of Le Mans to the 24 Hours of Nürburgring, over 1/3 of the race cars have a heart beating with our Chinese Kirin Core. We have officially become the rule makers. On the track, a Ferrari 499P race car equipped with our latest system is locked in a final desperate battle with a Porsche 963. There is only one lap left. Number 16, the Ferrari driver, leveraging the Kirin system 999 and its unmatched ability at Eau Rouge, successfully pulls off the overtake. In the end, with a razor-thin lead of 0.2 seconds, he crossed the finish line first. We won! The Kirin pit room erupted in deafening cheers. Ji Yu Yan and I, Mr. Chin, and Wei Hongshan hugged each other tightly. Ji Yu Yan is now our CTO, still sporting his usual sloppy look, but his eyes are sparkling with the brilliance of a genius. Mr. Chin, my former boss, later also became one of our company's angel investors. His early kindness has earned him a 100-fold return. Wei Hongshan, our chairman, has already started planning the company's IPO. The blueprint of a tech giant is rising up. At the celebration dinner, glasses clinked as we toasted. Mr. Antonio, the CEO of Mechatronic, also showed up. Holding his wine glass, speaking English with a heavy Italian accent, he said to me, "Jiang, my friend, I must admit, you and your team are the greatest innovators of our time. You have completely changed the landscape of the entire industry. To be your partner is the greatest honor of my life." 2 years ago they saw us as thieves. Today they've become our largest distributor in Europe. This is the respect that comes with true power. Back in Shanghai, on the top floor of our corporate headquarters, there is a private showroom not open to the public. Right in the center of the showroom, resting quietly, is a motorcycle. A Kawasaki Ninja H2R, limited carbon fiber edition. It's wiped completely spotless, still glowing with a breathtaking gleam under the lights. I haven't ridden this bike again. It has become our company's totem. It's the starting point of our entire story. Every single new employee is brought here to listen to me tell its story. About that 350,000 yuan invoice, Han Shi record, Tong Junsheng public file. About that foolish and greedy neighbor. About that seemingly trivial dispute that ended up changing everything. I often stand alone in front of this bike for a long time, my heart welling up with endless emotion. I often wonder if back then, facing Liu Dushen's provocation, I had chosen to argue, chosen anger, chosen to settle it privately, then maybe none of this today would have ever happened. I probably would have kept being a project manager, taking home an average salary, living a mediocre life, and then slowly growing old in day-to-day mediocrity. But luckily, I didn't. I chose the calmest, the most rational, and also the most resolute path. I chose to trust the law, to trust the evidence. I put my faith in the rules, and used a method my opponent couldn't even begin to comprehend, dealing him an absolutely devastating, next-level blow. And it was exactly this persistence, this sheer clarity of mind, that pried open a crack in my life, leading to a completely brand new world. A lot of people say that it was that motorcycle worth 350,000 that changed my destiny. But I know better. What truly changed my destiny wasn't the bike. It was the fact that when injustice struck, I chose to use my wits and my principles, finding the courage to defend my own dignity. I grabbed my phone and called Shen Qi. Aha, aye, he's actually our team manager now, as well as the company's official spokesperson. Hello? Brother Zhang, what's up? Are you free tonight? Bring my H2 down from upstairs.